Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 67 of the Peak of Serenity podcast. I am one of your hosts, emallson, and as always, I am joined by my co host, Anomoly.
Hello.
And this week, we are doing more coverage of this goings on PTR. We're going to be spending a little bit of time talking about Torghast, which I've done several hours of at this point on PTR, as well as raid testing, which we tested actually half of the raid instance this week. 5
It
bosses.
was like 5, yeah.
Yeah, it was a
It's
lot. They
crazy.
they were making up for lost time because it got canceled last week.
That's true. That's true.
Um,
I gotta catch up somehow.
yeah, and then just talking over some of the general things that have been found on the PTR, like the return of the lore corner towards the end of
Yes.
the episode.
Yes. Oh, hopefully we get there. We'll see.
No time limit today, so we will definitely get there.
That's true. That's true. We're going long. I love it.
But before we do that, uh, what happened this weekend? I see number
Uh,
one in the list. I had forgotten about this.
yeah, so number one on the list, because I wanted to put this right up front. Mistweaver got some bug fixes.
Some is maybe selling it to overselling it.
Yeah, no, I mean it was at the end of the day, fairly minor thing, but they did fix an issue where renewing mist was incorrectly resetting the Mistweaver swing timer. So essentially what was happening was every time renewing mist was either cast or tried to jump to a new target, it reset your swing timer. So in a in a raid where you have maybe 3 or 4 rems out and one of those rems is on a full health target, every second it is resetting your swing timer because every second it is trying to tick and also jump to a new target.
So does that
Um,
mean that you were getting too many auto attacks or not enough auto attacks?
Not enough. So you could go upwards of, I think there we have logs of individuals who, while have been in melee an entire fight, have something like 5 or 6 melee swings over the course of a 6, 7, 8 minute long fight.
Okay.
So yeah, if you were a staff and you had, like what was it, staves are like 2.5 to 3 seconds between each swing, you could literally never have a swing on a
Yeah,
boss. Because as long as you keep your renewing mists out, as long as they're continuing to try to jump or they are jumping, your swing timer got reset. So
that's rough.
yeah, I mean, it's ultimately a minor DPS like increase in term, not minor, but it's a DPS increase, not material, in terms of what it is for
I mean,
Mistweaver.
I imagine it's actually relatively substantial because I don't know, maybe this is just like a tank thing, but for Brewmaster, auto attacks are 10 to 15% of your damage.
Yeah, I mean, I think when the math that was out, I mean, I guess it is pretty substantial. It's about like, what did they say, like 300-ish DPS in terms of an increase.
Yeah,
So Misu's already doing like 2,500. So yeah, I mean, it's a fairly substantial, I guess, then increase in that
it's
regard.
I'm still getting used to these small numbers too.
Yeah, I know. I was like, it's like 300, not that big a deal. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, it is. I guess yeah, you're right. It is a pretty big, potentially pretty big increase for folks who are in melee. I mean, of course, if you're casting like there, you're not going to get your swings, but those shouldn't reset the swing timer. It should just pause it.
Yeah.
So yeah, um, but yeah, that was a big change. It was honestly found randomly. I think Labe from Mystery, one of the Mystery vets, was like looking at his logs for Sire. Was like, why do I only have like 6 auto attacks this entire fight? This doesn't make sense. And so we started like investigate. I say we, I mean everybody else but me. Started to investigate
You
and
supervise.
figured out. Yeah, I mean I like interjected like this is interesting on my thing. The cool the more interesting part of this is that I believe this is also an issue with enhancement shaman. And some of their casts resetting swing timers, particularly Maelstrom casts. So ones that are instant that should just sort of pause or really not impact it, potentially resetting it. So I've seen a couple
Oh
of
no.
rumblings on Twitter from Word Up on that. I don't know if they ever finalized the bug fix or that on that, but yeah,
There's nothing in the notes for it, so
yeah, might be coming.
we have an enhancement shaman in my guild. If they get a bug fix that increases their damage, he's gonna be a real happy camper.
Yeah, and I think for like enhancement, it's probably a larger. I mean, all they do is damage, so it's definitely a larger portion of a larger impact there. So
Yeah. Um Although they do use faster weapons, so they are probably getting, you know, less
Less,
impacted by it just randomly resetting their swing timer.
yeah,
Um,
that's true.
but at the same time, like damage is damage. Take it where you get it.
Exactly.
On the
Particularly
subject
if you're
of
in hands.
auto attack shenanigans, we
God.
rekilled the Nathrius last week, and I was looking at logs with our healing lead earlier this week.
Yeah.
I took 20% more damage in phase 3
Really?
compared to our first kill, wearing better gear, like more mastery on it, more defensive stats. I was wearing the same trinkets. The eye level on some things had gone up.
Interesting.
You want to know what the difference was?
What?
I dodged 2 fewer auto attacks.
Just two?
Just 2. Because you want to know how many times he actually swings at me in phase 3?
Not that often, I'm assuming then.
12
Oh Jesus.
in 3
That's
minutes.
that's crazy. That's crazy. I
I
didn't
didn't
realize.
realize. Yeah. So basically, it's actually hugely because of how slow the swing timer is. If you get just a little bit of variance on dodges, like
Yeah.
I ended up on a rekill. I had basically the worst case scenario for dodge. My mastery was over 30%, and I dodged 33% of auto attacks.
Jesus.
Um, and that's really bad.
Yeah.
Whereas on our first kill, I dodged half, and that difference is just 2 auto
Just two
attacks.
swings. That's hilarious. That's funny. I didn't realize he swang that slow. That's funny.
It's like 2.5 seconds. It's really slow.
Yeah.
I
That's
just thought that was
ridiculous.
really funny.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's funny. Just two more swings. That's funny. Um, awesome. Yeah. So there's a one or two other bug fixes. Don't really matter. I guess they added the ability to talk to an NPC if you don't get your mythic keystone from your cache. I didn't realize this was an actual bug, but to be fair, I ran my first key last week for the first week in like a month and a half, 2 months. So I don't really
uh,
see it that often.
I didn't have that happen. I had kind of the opposite happen where I was offered, like I had my cash,
Yeah.
and then I like picked an item from it, and I went and did other things, and I came back and I had another cash available.
Oh,
I wonder if I forgot to loot it a week, and it's like, well, we're still gonna give you the item.
interesting.
I don't know how that happened. It was
Yeah.
I don't think it was the same item in it. It was garbage, so I
Did
took
use
it
it
and vendored
anyway.
it.
Yeah, of course, of course.
But yeah.
That's funny. That's weird. Yeah, I haven't seen any shenanigans with the vault yet for me. So I am yeah, no nothing on my side. Um so next up in the week that was there is more Mythic Plus being broken by toys talk. This time, it's the Legion Pocket Portal. And it's particularly with Sanguine Depths. So Sanguine Depths, of course, has little canisters that if you are a vent there, you can use. And if you kill mobs with inside the radius of the canister, you get a buff. What does it do? It
It's
increases your
10% bonus
damage and healing.
damage per
Yeah.
stack. Yeah. So you kill
Um,
more things, you get more stacks, you do more damage.
dur-
And there's a bunch of toys apparently that just like summon a bunch of little ads. There's one that was previously fixed that summoned a bunch of spiders.
yep.
And
This one
so
is, I think it's imps out of the Legion Pocket Portal, right?
yeah.
So, and they
So
count when they die or when they expire, right? Because they basically spawn in and
right.
they hop around for a couple seconds and then
And
die.
then
They
go
give you a
away.
stack. And so people have been using that to get a free 10 stacks of the buff, which is 50% more damage and healing. So I think we are literally probably one major patch, probably not 9.1, but 9.2, where they just disable toys in Mythic Plus. Like just a blanket, like
Did you see
everything that is a toy.
they added cardboard assassins to the MDI realms?
I did. I didn't put that in the last week's notes, but yes, I did see that. I think that's ugh.
I mean, I don't know what to think anymore because I would have expected them to like disable it instead of adding them to the MDI realm. But
Exactly, yeah.
um
It's
I don't know
so
what to
weird.
think anymore.
Yeah, no, because it's such a weird like because they've done other things to like reduce what you can do in Mythic Plus that's interesting and fun, like the some of the skips and things like that. And then they add in a toy, or they add in, they basically say it's okay to use like this is a belt enchant, right? From
Cataclysm.
Cataclysm, right? Yeah, I forget. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yep.
BC, but yeah.
Cataclysm
Um,
belt enchant.
like what? Like they it's such a weird, like it's almost like, and this is maybe the issue, is that there are too many people working on WoW now, that like decisions are being made in like by different groups. So like
I don't
there's
think
no
it's too many people
consistency.
working on it. I think it's more. My take is it's more likely that they just didn't think they could, or well, my guess is by disabling cardboard assassins, it would just break the strategies that were being used to do the highest keys, and that would mean that then the strategies that were used for the high keys on live would not work on MDI or the Great Push.
Sure.
That's my
Okay,
guess.
that's fair.
And I
That's fair.
wouldn't,
They wanted to mirror what's on live, yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Cardboard Assassins get disabled in 9.1 after the turn.
That's fair. I guess we'll see on that one. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, the
Or
whole
they
toy,
just
I think the
keep,
toy. Oh, sorry.
or they just keep playing whack-a-mole with these toys in the Venthyr canister.
Might as well. They just disable them all at this point. Like, there's no. I think it'd
I
just be easier. So
mean, at the same time, I would rather them just sit than
yeah,
disable toys because I, for one, love going back after a wipe and there's that one asshole that didn't release, and you walk up and you light their corpse on fire, or you use the like whatever the knives are that like
oh,
turn
they're
them into.
so rude. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
What is it? The ceremonial dagger. I
yeah,
forget the. Yeah,
yeah,
that's funny.
that's fun. I would not be. I mean, it wouldn't make me super mad. I would just be kind of disappointed if they turned off all toys in Mythic
That's fair.
Plus. So
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, so more Mythic Plus shenanigans are afoot with toys and stuff like that. So use that stuff while you can before they disable it. Um, Next up from Blizzard, which is an interesting one, is Blizzard has sort of expanded the language around multiboxing.
yeah. Uh, so basically, the original.
Blizzard has changed the language around multiboxing. And the basically they've expanded or basically genericized it. For before, they talked very much about input broadcasting software is against
Discord.
the EULA. Oh, you back,
Discord.
Emallson?
Hi. Yeah, Discord decided to update itself in the middle of
Oh
that,
no,
apparently.
gotcha.
That's okay. Hi. Uh, you guys get to look at Wowhead while I fix. Anyway, back to
Nice,
the.
nice. Yeah. So they basically expanded the language. It says now uh any method that broadcasts any sort of input to two accounts at the exact same time is now against the end user agreement.
Yeah.
So this basically, I think, is just a more broad wording than just input software. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess the idea there is you could use like keyboard repeaters or like hardware mods
Yeah.
that
And
like
there's
the
there's
keystrokes are.
one guy that people were talking much about where they were using some hardware thing to broadcast their keystrokes across multiple accounts. But because it was
Yeah,
hardware, I mean, honestly, it was probably software masquerading as hardware if we want to get technical,
right,
because what
right.
it probably was is a little like piece like a little small like a microcomputer with software on it that was broadcasting it. So it was technically
Okay.
probably software anyway, but as far as most people are concerned, it was hardware broadcasting
Right.
um the inputs, and this basically closes that and says no, no broadcasting inputs at all,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah, with any method. So it however doesn't make multiboxing against the end user agreement. So you can still
Right.
do the traditional like alt tab through a bunch of clients, have them follow you, click things through each
It's
one.
so there is a catch though, and so input broadcasting is just categorically that's banned. Doesn't matter how you do it, anything like that, that's just banned. But there's this little bit of extra text on it that is really interesting. So they say you can't use hardware or software to broadcast inputs or to automate or streamline multiboxing in any way. And that
Oh, I didn't read
last
that.
bit is really interesting to me because it basically says you can multibox if you do it by hand. If you
Which
use
is fair.
software to make it easier to multibox than just like having two instances of WoW open and you like put them side by side on your monitor.
Yeah.
And
Wait, that? Oh, if you do anything more than that, gotcha.
yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah, I was like, if you do that, you're banned. I was like confused, but yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, it's. I think it's an interesting crackdown. I mean, it's sometimes some people find it fun, but I think at the end of the day, their point of view is that I think it'll hurt WoW in the long run if it becomes sort of a multi-boxer's paradise,
yeah.
if you can say that. So
I think it generally has been a net negative for a while now, and it's just become
yeah,
more and more and more of a problem. Like we've all seen, historically, for example, starting in Legion, there was the multi-boxing together herbs. Nazjatar was where people really, really started to get mad about it because the new herb that was required only dropped in Nazjatar,
yeah,
and the tap limit meant that usually a multi-boxer would just be flying around on some druids and like take the whole herb and then fly off, and there was nothing you could do about it. So
right,
you as an individual could not gather at all.
yeah,
And we've seen that kind of thing again with letter and skinning, this expansion. And some of it is botters, but some of it is also just people doing 4x4 farms.
yeah, yeah, with their own accounts. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, banned now. So I guess you got to tab through all your alts, Emallson, your little army over there.
I
Um,
have I have thought about moving my alts to separate accounts to do
gotcha.
specifically because I have done Torghast so much this week on live. Because I
Oh,
decided I
fun.
wanted to get a little bit of Soul Ash. I want to make the Touch of Death legendary on my monk. More Soul Ash for
Okay,
that.
okay. Those are noble causes.
And my warrior and my paladin I'm catching up on. So
Gotcha, gotcha. Oh man. All right. Well, that is some multi-box. I mean, I guess yeah, there's certain ways where it makes sense. I've never I don't know, I don't play enough characters, I feel like, to care, so
yeah.
or to do it, to make it like worth it for me. So cool. So next up is actually a really fun one for me, and I think you too, which is we have a release date for Burning Crusade Classic.
Guess what?
What's up?
I never got beta.
You
This is
never
another one. This is another one going in the list of me not getting beta.
Okay, to be fair, I also did not get beta. I just
Yeah,
double checked.
okay. You got Shadowlands stuff.
That's true, I did. But yeah, so they've announced it. It's June 1st, coming out with May 18th as the pre-patch on Classic Realms. So June 1st, everybody gets to go through the Dark Portal again, and experience, I mean, arguably probably one of the best expansions. Top two, three for me at least. So yeah, so it's very, very fun. So they sort of gave us the date. They also gave us the pricing around everything else, which people are a little upset about.
Yeah,
Uh,
some people I think are getting unreasonably upset about the
I agree.
microtransactions. Like
100% agree.
I've seen people in guild being like, "Oh, they killed it." It's like you get a one-time. You can buy one single per account character boost,
Right. So
and like
that's actually not the thing I think people are that I've heard the most upsetness about, or the
I mean,
most
and
sort
then
of
there's the
issue with.
thing. So when you log in after the pre-patch, you're gonna have the choice to move your character to the new patch or keep it in classic. And there is additionally a microtransaction, which I think is what $35
35. Yep.
to copy it instead of moving it.
Yep.
And honestly, that's really dumb. I am
So
on board with that one. That one being really dumb.
I have a counterpoint to that. So I
Okay.
think well, and I think maybe we'll go over the other thing. So it's $35 or it's third is it $40 for the boost,
It's $40
right?
for the boost, 35 for the copy.
Yeah, and then the deluxe edition with all the mount stuff is $70. So people are like, "Oh, $70 for like mounts and deluxe collector's edition," but I'm like, that's $10 more
That's
than a
normal.
retail game. Yeah, I'm not upset about that one. But okay, so $35 for the character copy, and I think so. I am okay with it for the simple reason that I think Blizzard. I think this is a thing Blizzard wants to do is they don't want to indefinitely support Classic, and by giving individuals by giving folks a way to keep two characters moving forward, they basically have to keep a larger support unit for Classic, right? Because expectations,
I
people
think you
always
actually
move to
do have a
something
point
new.
there. Now that I think about it.
So, and that's the only. I think I think the $35 is literally a deterrent from individuals who where Blizzard wants to basically push people to only be in one area, and that way they essentially split the population and
Uh,
they
I,
essentially can assume
I
Classic
think
lower.
I think so. I hadn't thought about this. I think you're actually really on the right track there. Where if you think about complexities that go into realm merges,
Yep.
if everybody still had their old classic character and their new Burning Crusade character, but most people were only playing the new Burning Crusade character, you still have to take into account their classic character when you do server merges.
Yep.
But if, for example, 80% of the classic population moves to Burning Crusade Classic, then that last 20% is going to be spread across all the realms. Some of them are going to be complete ghost towns. Like,
Exactly.
you. So, by having it be a move by default instead of a copy, what that means is that when that happens, they can then go through it and go, okay, these realms don't have anybody anymore, and the number of name conflicts is going to drop like a rock.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Name conflicts, just the complexity of moving, like like consolidate and migrating all that information, everything
yeah,
like that. Like the team that has to put that together and work, right? I think that's the only reason I think that price is there, and
yeah,
why it's higher than like a typical transfer or whatever,
yeah.
like the typical like retail service is.
From
So
a technical perspective, the character copies and all that have always been insanely overpriced.
oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
100% agree.
uh, and
You're
so
literally changing a pointer, like it's
yeah, it's
copying
re-
a couple rows from a database, moving into the other database,
yeah.
deleting it from the old one once the
Honestly,
copy is
the
successful.
copying is more complex than the server transfer is, but
That's true.
it's still not that much. It's not $35 complex.
No, no, not per one. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's to me like the money's high, but I think the money is high for that service on purpose to
Yeah,
basically deter people from utilizing it. Because if they make it $15, like, or even like 20, right? Like, I still think that's high, but like a lot of people can swallow $20 to keep two characters alive versus
yeah. There
35.
is no way that I am going to like pay for that on my druid. Which my druids, I've got 3 weeks to hit 60, so or 58, which is the level I actually care about. 3 weeks.
Yeah,
That's probably not happening. It's level 38 right now.
yeah. No, I'm boosting a shaman. I've already come to terms with
So
that.
actually, there's one extra thing about the character boost that I didn't realize until I was actually prepping for this episode. You cannot use it on Blood Elves and Draenei.
Yep,
So
I
you
knew that.
literally all you can use it for is boosting a character that you could have leveled in Classic. It is literally like if you couldn't suffer through Classic leveling over the past 3 years, you can skip it and go and play Burning Crusade with your friends. They're already level 58.
Exactly. Yeah, which is fine for me because I mean I'm
I
going to be a
I
Lord
agree.
Shaman. I'm
Like
perfect. I'm
we
fine
have
with
a
that.
bunch of people in guild that are hyped about Classic or Burning Crusade Classic that just could not suffer through the last 20 levels of Burning of original Classic level.
Yeah.
And like I am going to try and power through it, but I'm at that really awkward point where I'm too low level for a lot of the late game zones and too high level for a lot of the mid game zones.
That yeah, that what was it's like 35ish to like 45ish is
Yeah,
just the roughest 10 levels. Like,
yeah. I mean
yeah.
that's where I'm at because like I didn't go to Stranglethorn Vale when I should have, for example.
Oh,
That was a
yeah.
big mistake because now I'm like, okay, all of the later Nessingwary quests are just locked off to me. because
So you have to do a bunch of like gray quests to like.
right. So my options are do a bunch of great quests, or actually what I should do, just grind some gorillas for hours. Just
Yeah,
kill gorillas. It's gonna because if that I mean that's what let's be real, that's what the Nessing Wary quests are anyway.
exactly.
I should just
God.
skip like the quests aren't that much XP. They're like 10 mob kills or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it for me to go through 3 steps of the Nessing Wary quest chains
Yeah,
to
just get
get
to the end. Yeah,
to the last one. So I don't
that's
know.
funny.
I need to double check what level the stuff is because if it goes like 30, 35, 38, I might do it because the 35 ones would still be like not a
Yeah, yeah, that'd be pretty good. But yeah, awesome. Yeah, so I will definitely be boosting something. Come I think May 18th, all this stuff goes on sale. So
yep.
with pre-patch, so it'll be
Oh
fun.
right, I have to decide on May 18th. I've got 10 days to hit level 60
Yeah.
and I have to work, so probably not happen.
Yeah, no, not at all. Um, but cool. And then the only final thing that happened last week, this has been a long intro, was we got some Castle Nathrian nerfs, particularly to Nerva. So Lady Darkvein, I was gonna say Darkweaver, but Darkvein. Um, and yeah, health reduced by 10%. Pretty good, I guess. The conjured manifestation and harness specter health has been reduced by 10% on Mythic. Sorry, these are Mythic only changes.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess there was an issue where concentrated anima and shared suffering could be chosen by someone afflicted with a Necrolord's soulbind, Forborn
So
Reveries.
that's the thing. That's the soulbind thing where someone dies and they stay alive for 10 seconds.
Gotcha.
Um, so if you were basically already dead,
You
you
could be
could get
retargeted.
targeted with these mechanics and then just basically wipe the raid because you were going to die.
Yeah.
And then the thing would go away before you could get them, or you like had to have a battle res.
Gotcha.
Um, so
Interesting nerf. Like, I mean, was a nerf like a nerf? I feel like nowadays is like almost like the boss you do after
oh yeah,
hungering. It's
yeah.
like the fourth boss in the instance
So
now.
I was talking about this with people in guild, and I have some stats from the Prog Stat site that support this, and basically the way it looks to me is and I've got this pulled up on stream. So if we look at the number of boss kills for this stuff, like Shriekwing is like our baseline 6,000 kills, and Huntsman's got almost that number, and Hungering is over 5,000, right? So that's like
Yeah.
those are the three that are pretty easy to pug. We expect to see the most kills there. And then the next easiest it actually looks like is Sun King's Salvation, so Kel'thuzad.
Okay, makes sense.
And that is just like these days, with especially with the nerfs that it received, um, you can just put extra healers in and just completely trivialize the fight.
Yeah.
Um, and then the combination of Darkvein and Zymox have way fewer kills. So this is, in my opinion, something that is not targeted against like the Mythic raiding community. Actually, what it's actually targeted at is people who are pugging Mythic. Like they've reached the point that they can't get upgrades from Heroic. They are pugging Mythic, but Mythic groups can't like pug Mythic groups cannot kill Darkvein.
Right.
So this is a way for them to like they looked at they probably looked at the possibility of nerfing Zymox again or you know nerfing Darkvein to make it so that more pugs could do it, and came to the conclusion that Darkvein was the more practical.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
because you can almost.
then
Oh, sorry.
the other aspect of it is the really like guilds, I guess as well. They're like heroic guilds, so they're just dabbling in Mythic right now because the tier is going on for so long. Kind of same argument there. It gives another
Yeah.
boss that they are going to practically be able to get down without bashing their heads into the forever.
Yeah, because I mean, at 10%, you could almost four heal this at this point now, and
Yeah,
still make a lot of the DPS checks. So
yeah. Or if you do three
that's crazy.
healless, it is going to die 10% faster, and you are much more likely to be able to skip that first set of ads.
Oh yeah, that's actually true. Gosh, that'd be fun. But yeah, quick more CN nerfs. Still waiting on the Sire ones, I think, at this point. So see what those will be.
I don't expect them to nerf Sire basically at all, unless we have a really long.
Yeah, I mean, there
It
talks of
is,
July 1st being the
yeah.
9.1 patch time, which seems early, but
I don't know, honestly. We've tested now 7 of 10 raid bosses on Heroic. July 1st is almost 2 months away. We have time to go through all of them on Mythic.
Okay.
So
That's true. That's true. That's true.
there is still definitely a lot of work to do, but I don't think 2 months from now is unreasonable.
Yeah, that's fair.
Although I will say, I guess I've got a question then. If they do nerf Sire, how do you think they're going to do it?
How do I think they nerf Sire? Um,
Or how would you do it? One of the two.
yeah, I think they do it a couple ways. So I think the biggest thing that probably kills a lot of guilds is Massacre. So I think what they end up doing is potentially do less lines for Massacre. So in general,
Okay.
just less slashes. I think is one way you can do it. I'm trying to actually think one of my buddies is progressing Sire right now, so I'm trying to remember what he kept dying to. I mean, Massacre is going to be the big one. And then I think actually in phase 3, they lower. Oh god, what do you lower damage there? But I think it's particularly you lower damage. You lower the dot damage that's left behind from the soaks. Whatever, I forget what those are called.
Yeah, like you have to
But
soak
I think
less
those.
damage from the fatal finesses.
Well, no,
Well,
not
soak less
soak
damage
less.
and it does less damage in the thing that you get after it.
I think the soak damage is fine. I think the soak timing and the amount you have to soak is fine. But I
Okay.
think the actual dot damage itself probably gets adjusted. Because that's really the only.
Okay.
There's a lot of damage in there, and I think you could do a blanket 5% nerf. But I think if you want to be a little bit more targeted, you target the debuff and you target Massacre in terms of just like less lines. I think those two are fine. I think Kabbalists and the different, I don't know, all of those the ads in phase 2 have plenty, like health wise they're fine. I think the movement, like if you nerf anything there, you essentially lose what was cool about the fight. I think too much. Um, so yeah, I think phase 2 is, I think in my mind, perfect. You get through Massacre and like there's so much of execution you need to do there. So I think those would be the two targeted nerfs I'd look at.
The one I would say is actually, I'm going to slightly disagree with you here, is nerfing the HP of some of the horsemen a little bit. Maybe not all of them, but make it a little bit more approachable for guilds to do the 2-2 strategy, because that's still a pretty tight DPS check. To kill 2
That's
ads and then
true,
kill the
yeah.
other 2 versus Limit's original strat. And I've seen guilds talking in the recruitment Discord and things about using the 2-1-1 strat because they don't have the DPS to make to do both
Oh,
ads, or they just can't
yeah.
consistently get the tank debuff on one of them, which is a separate problem.
Gotcha.
Um,
So I'm not gonna lie. I didn't realize there was different ways to do phase 2 until you just
yeah,
said that.
there's two ways. There's
'Cause I
the limit strategy was you kill the first 2 horsemen that everybody kills. It's the same 2 that we
right.
do, and you kill. Everybody goes over to the one that grips you, and you
Okay.
kill that while
Okay.
you wait for your portal debuff to come off, basically. Then you do all of the Kabbalists, and then you go kill the last.
Gotcha. We don't do that. So we do, yeah, our melee kills the guy that grips you and range. So like on that
And
hand of
range kill the
destruction,
one with like the smoke bomb.
yeah, on that hand
Yeah,
of destruction, our range doesn't go through the mirror. They portal over
yeah,
to that platform, and then melee goes through the mirror. Okay. I to be fair, I thought that was the only way to do that
yeah.
fight.
I mean, it's the only
I,
way. Basically,
that's
everybody
the
that's
only way I
killed the
learned.
boss at this point has killed it
Yeah.
that way.
Gotcha.
There's like Limit's first kill was like that. I'm sure probably a couple other guilds that killed it very early have that strat, and then now we're starting to see, I would say, some guilds that don't have strongest DPS just struggling to make that check, and so they're looking at that. And
Gotcha.
that would be the one thing, because for one thing, that does not break any of the like HP based push timers from phase 1, from
That's true.
phase 2, that you could get from nerfing Sire health. And that's really, I don't want them to touch Sire's health, because then we're gonna have to sit on our
We,
hands even longer in phase 2 or in phase 1.
well, yeah, in phase 1,
Yeah,
yeah, because that's the one where, yeah, you don't want to push phase 1 any earlier than you have to. So yeah,
yeah.
interesting.
So yeah,
That's
but
a good. I mean, it could do ad health. Yeah, I'm not a fan of
I
health
do
based.
agree with you in general though. I think phase 2 is very very good as it is.
Yeah,
And like, I don't know. It's I don't think, as far as like my guild is concerned, we've got phase 2 out. You know, not a
yeah,
problem. Pretty consistent. Our biggest issue is probably massacres.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, and I think that's probably the biggest issue for most guilds is just dying to that. So if you just like not lessen the damage it does, just lessen the lines you have to dodge, I think makes that ability. And I don't know how you do it. Like maybe it's like I don't know how many lines come out, but
I
whatever it
don't know
is,
either.
maybe it's like 4 or 5 lines less. Like not because there's a lot of lines, so maybe it's like
Yeah.
4 or 5, less overall with each cast, and that way you have a little bit less to dodge. So, but yeah, that's all it needs, and everybody can kill it. So I guess we'll see. Cool. I think that was the week that was.
Yeah.
So now we get into some fun patch stuff. So I think a couple of quick hitters that I wanted to go through just to sort of it's kind of like week in review, but it's like things that happened in the patch that I actually read about and
Yeah.
figured out what was going on, or stuff that was data mined this week. And then I think we want to hit some raid testing stuff, Torghast stuff, and then maybe lore if I'm awake. That's a lot, I feel like. So first up, just changes to monks. There's only one this week. There's a new Brewmaster PvP talent called Rodeo, right? It's Brewmaster only, right? I'm right on
Right. It
this.
is Brewmaster only. I'm not gonna lie. When this first got posted, I did not realize it was a PvP talent, and I was extremely confused because I was like, "What is this for? Why are they giving us this? What are we
Yeah.
doing?" But this is a PvP talent, and it is basically every 7 seconds while Clash is off cooldown, your next Clash can be reactivated immediately to quote unquote wildly clash an additional enemy. This effect can stack up to 3. Um, we don't know what wildly clash means yet. This has been data
Yeah.
mined, but as far as I know, you can't actually pick it yet, or it's non-functional, something like that. So I don't have good answers yet on that subject. Um, but my read is that either it randomly picks a target and you clash them, or you get to pick another target and clash them. And it's basically like charges, except that it loses some of the upside of charges, which is that you can spread them out. Like you still have to
Right.
use them all. But fun fact that not a lot of people remember: Clash roots everything in an area where you end.
Oh,
And
that's pretty
so
good.
um you can clash and just like, and it's not on, it doesn't DR with other things as far as I know. So you can just like keep people rooted, just like clash, 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 clash.
That's pretty awesome.
I don't know if that's actually good enough for Brewmaster to see any play in RBGs, but it's something.
Might be something. Yeah, could be something
Uh,
for him.
Brewmaster already has this kind of niche of, or it's been developing this niche of being very CC oriented, lots of control options. Ring of Peace is very unique.
Yeah.
Clash has it ups and downs. Like Sweep, there's the Breath of Fire Disorient talent combined with builds that reset your Breath of Fire cooldown. So there's a bunch of different CC options that Brewmasters have. Actually, they could really do a lot of CC compared to most other tanks.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
but they are pretty squishy, and despite the reputation for being mobile, are actually not at all mobile in compared to
Very
the
important.
Vengeance, Demon Hunters, and Warriors, and to a lesser extent Bears that are used to run flags.
That's so funny. Gosh. Yeah. Yeah. I mean I've never seen a brewmaster in an RBG group that I've been in. I will tell you that. With all the RBGs I ran early on this expansion, I don't think I ever saw a brewmaster. But
Yeah,
um,
I don't think this pushes that niche to the point that you'd actually bring one.
yeah, it's just interesting.
Because in a team fight, I think you would rather just have a DPS. Like, why bring a Brewmaster, which does crap damage and has a bunch of crowd control, when you could bring a Frost Mage that does good damage and has a lot of crowd control?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, bring the player, not the class, Emallson.
Now, if you want to hit 2400.
Oh god, dude, that's the one bad. I think that's the one bad thing Ghostcrawler did for this game was say that out loud. Ugh.
Honestly, probably.
And that and LFR or LFG. Um,
Hmm. I don't know.
LFG. I will say it's LFG is bad only because it enabled LFR to be a thing.
Okay. Okay. I would say I wish that the group finder we had now is the LFG that had been introduced in Wrath of the Lich King.
I agree. Yeah.
and that instead of having like 10 years of them trying to make that, basically,
Yeah.
they had instead put 10 years into improving the LFG system that we have now.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, Clash, new PvP talent. Only changed for monks this week. Mistweaver got nothing. Windwalker got nothing. So
No Covenant legendaries still.
yeah, it's not surprising. We'll get those the week before, have 4 hours to test them. They'll go unbroken and dumb, and we'll go from there.
And one of them will break Mistweaver. It will either like actually break Mistweaver and the class will be unplayable, or it will break Mistweaver and it will be the only healer that is playable.
Oh my
And
god.
there's no in between.
No, it's the way it works, the way it goes. So yeah, so new Clash only really changes like spell ability, legendary wise. But the Blizzard did go through and add a couple of new things this week.
Yep.
So next up is they've added a Soul Ash transfer. Very similar to it's a bound. They added basically a bind on account item that you can buy and then mail to your alts, and it's for you buy it for Soul Ash and able to transfer Soul Ash. Very similar to like War Resources,
Rate
the
on it is
cap is.
surprisingly good too. So it costs 1500 Soul Ash and it contains 1300. So it's like 80%.
Yeah, which is really good. And I think this is great too with the fact that you're going to be running probably more Torghast on your main coming up here to get the new Soul Cinders for the new legendary
Right.
ranks.
And you won't
So
need the
it's
Soul
not
Ash.
dead. Yeah, you won't need it. So, and it won't
So
be a dead like currency.
to reiterate, you only need Soul Ash for ranks 1 through 4 of your legendaries. To make ranks 5 and 6, you only need Soul Cinders. So if you have your current legendary and you're just upgrading it, you only need the Soul Cinders. You'll be able to spend the Soul Ash you get just by sending it to your ults. If you do want to make a completely new legendary, like you want to make a new Covenant legendary, you will need Soul Ash for the first 4 ranks of. But you can also get the Soul Ash for that now. So
That's true. That's true. So yeah, it's a nice little quality of life thing. I expect this to be sort of a standard currency thing that they start putting in the game in like their like after the opening patch, right?
yeah,
For transfers and catch ups and things like that. So
I
um
think this kind of switched back towards the Wrath, like badge of X, Y, and Z kind of
yeah,
thing, is honestly just. Or if they really care about currency bloat, they can do what they did in Cataclysm, which is, you had your Justice and your Valor, and every tier the Valor gear became the Justice gear, and they released new Valor gear that was higher eye level, that kind of
gotcha.
thing. But this,
So the PvP system.
yeah.
Yeah. But for
Uh,
PV.
but I mean, this is better than doing the we're just gonna multiply all the numbers by 10
Oh, dude, that
thing.
the residuum thing was so dumb. It was just so dumb. So dumb.
The
Sorry.
whole system was so dumb. The
Oh my
fact that it was
god.
random,
Oh my god.
the fact that they kept multiplying the numbers by 10, the fact that you had to scrap, not vendor, scrap your old Azerite to get Residuum.
Oh my
You know how
god.
bad it felt to be like, well, this is a good Azerite piece for you. And there's also 5 people in the raid that want it only so that they can take it to the scrapper.
Crap it, yeah. Yeah.
So that they can roll for their best piece that doesn't actually drop in the raid.
Oh my god, so
Okay,
dumb.
we're getting back into BFA
Yeah,
nonsense now, though. But
that's true. But speaking of potentially dumb systems that they're extending, the Valor upgrades were also data mined this week. So essentially something we were expecting to happen anyway. They have sort of increased the cap for your Valor upgrade. So it looks as though they've data mined 14 ranks here, which goes up to 250 item level 252 in terms of the upgrades that you can do
mhm.
with Valor. However, the final two are not available. It looks like it might only go to 246 in terms of the cap and what
Yeah.
you can upgrade your Mythic Plus gear to using Valor. So
So the my thinking right now is that this is probably incomplete
probably yeah.
because
We know it's
Ian
coming, but yeah,
Ian specifically referenced in the interview with Preach that they could use the Mythic Plus rating system to do gear upgrade,
yeah,
and this doesn't mention them at all. So I'm thinking we're seeing like a like halfway complete switch for the
That's
Valor
true.
stuff. Like probably haven't figured out the rating breakpoints and all of that yet because Mythic Plus rating system is not done yet.
Yeah.
So that's my guess is that this is just incomplete, and we are going to see all the way up to 252 once they figure out the rating breakpoints.
That'd be nice.
Or it'll be something like, I think this is, but they could do like a hybrid system where like there's the Keystone Master thing, and you get Keystone Master, and that gets you like upgrades all the way through ring 10, like 246, which is like above heroic eye level. And then to get the last two, you need like plus rating, and that's like,
God, dude, kill me. Like, cause it like at that, yeah, I don't even want to get into it.
that
I
that
mean, we'll
does,
see. We'll see what they do.
yeah.
It's
I
just
mean, that would
don't
mean that
convolute it.
the people that are really mad, real butt mad about having Mythic Plus rating in the game will never have to deal with it because they will never be upgrading stuff to 2.
That is true. That is true. God, yeah, no, don't do a hybrid. That's so dumb. Pick one or the other. Don't make it confusing for people. God. So okay. All right. Sorry. So that is Valor points. So that we assume system's going to be extended. We'll see how it all lays out at the end of it. The final or no, two more things. Sorry, here and this new stuff that was added or new stuff that they've sort of data mined. We started to see Covenant assaults for the first time on PTR. So these are sort of in the mall. Each of the 4 covenants will assault essentially a different location on a timer, and you'll go there, you'll do a bunch of quests, and you'll get some reputation rewards, along with some Stygia and soul senders for completing it. I think you get a chance for gear too, based on your world quest item level. I think of what I read. So yeah, this is sort of one of the big, I guess, PV things that are going into the mall with 9.1. Essentially, these are timer-based assaults. I believe they're probably going to end up very similar to the way the Legion assaults worked. And some of the the Legion assaults sort of those were what 9 or sorry, Legion was 7-2, I want to say, right? Or
Yeah, I
7-3.
think it was 7.2.
It was the Tome raid.
Two was Sargeras was 7.
I believe. Yeah. But they seem to be very similar, except those assaults were very much just fill a bar. This seems like there's like a fill a bar, but it's like there's 3 quests you do to make that bar fill.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
uh,
I haven't touched any of the Corthia stuff yet on PTR.
y-
So I haven't actually taken the chance to go and try these out.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think we'll see. Oh, it looks like they according to the Wowhead article, they are very similar to the minor assaults from Visions of N'Zoth. I forgot about those. They reset
Yeah,
bi-weekly, so there's 2 a week. So yeah, so it'll be cool. I mean, they seem interesting. Another thing to do to like sort of get you in there.
yeah,
Um, I enjoyed doing this. Like, I have this weird. I think I've talked about this, but I have this weird thing with like, I like seeing bars and timers go off, and I like being a completionist. So if I see that assault like blinking at me, I'm gonna want to do it.
yeah,
So I think I'm gonna have a little bit of fun with this, in terms of just like checking it off the list, and getting some Stygia and stuff like that for the next whatever the new sockets are gonna be. Assuming they come from Stygia. I
yeah.
haven't seen anything about that yet, but
Um,
um,
yeah. I wasn't a huge fan of the N'Zoth assaults, but I was a fan of the bi-weekly thing. I actually think that works really well. It's much better than dailies.
yeah,
Much better than dailies. Being able to be like, okay, like I'm gonna just after raid on Friday, I'm gonna go and do the assault, and then I go and do the other one on reset day,
yeah,
and just like not worry about it any other point in the week
yeah.
is actually really nice. I don't like this. I do not.
Love swoops, love swoops. But yeah, so those are going to be in. I'm actually going to try and check them out this week. I think get on PTR for a little bit and see if I can, because you have to unlock I think the second chapter of the story. So or whatever the new campaign is. So
Yeah, I've had the first
yeah,
chapter of my quest log on my PTR monk for a month and some change now.
nice, nice.
It's
Um,
yeah, I have not touched. I actually was wondering, So the first time I went and did Torghast on PTR, it didn't upgrade my Torghast level. I
Okay.
was wondering if I needed to like do story quests to unlock it. Turns out you do not,
Oh, okay.
actually.
It's a bug, yeah. Interesting.
So buggy.
Yeah. So it's always PCR. It's always fun.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So the final little tidbit thing before we get into really, I think the fun talk, is they have data mined, or at least data mined most of the hand mount locations. So these are, of course, the mounts that look like hands, and you ride on the top of them. I am super excited because I think these things look amazing. So they've data mined essentially. Wowhead has data mined the locations of four of them, I believe. So they're coming from pretty much all different areas of the world. So there's one from some mall events. So doing the mall, you have to get a set of items, get enough items, and you can craft one of the hands. One seems to be going to take a long time, but just an easy grind. Another hand is the meta achievement from Sanctum of Domination. So complete all the individual ones, which will be tough because my guild hates achievements. So that'll be a tough one to pull together.
I'm sure you.
Um,
We do achievement runs. Fun. Let me know.
oh, maybe I'll hit you up for that. Maybe I'll hit you up for
It's
that.
probably during your raid hours, but
Well, yeah, probably. Yeah.
they did one this week because midweek teams main tank, one of their tanks, uh, got a concussion the night of raid
Oh,
and
Jesus.
could not raid. So they were like, well, we are not going to kill generals in Denathrius because we have too little time to figure out the tank situation. We're gonna do an achievement run.
Jesus, that sucks.
Yep,
Hopefully he was okay.
yep. I think he's doing fine.
Awesome, awesome. But yeah, they come from a couple different areas. So yeah, the meta achievement one. There's another one from the mall, which seems to be more like you have to collect some specific items and do some sort of secret finding thing, maybe. And the final one is another meta achievement one, but it's for the mall slash Korthia together. So all the meta achievements there outside of the raid, the new zone. So um, I literally have never cared about achievements in my life, but I want every one of these hand mounts. So that's what I'll be working on. And they seem really cool. The animations of them seems awesome. So I'm excited to try to
Yeah.
pull this together. So um
Dang.
so cool. So I think that's it. So now on to raid testing, and
Yeah.
how
So
was
I
it? I missed it. So I didn't
I
get a chance to
did
technically
all of
do
the
it.
raid testing this week except for the LFR testing. I did not touch that.
Gotcha.
That
Gotcha.
was right before our actual raid on Friday, so I could not. Like, I needed to go and eat. Um,
Gotcha.
so I stopped, but I did all the heroic testing this week. I did most of the heroic testing that had been done previously. So I've actually done. This is the most raid testing I've ever done. It's wild. Um, but yeah, there are some really good bosses in here. So on Thursday we tested two bosses. We tested Kel'thuzad and the Eye of the Jailer. That was all we
Gotcha.
tested. Have actual
Get your
paper
notebook.
notes.
Nice.
Yeah, it was Kel'Thuzad and the Eye
Nice.
of the Jailer. The Eye of the Jailer is the second boss in the raid, so you're gonna hit that really early, and it is suitably easy. Like kind of like the Terragru, it's there for you to kill because you hate it, right?
Gotcha.
Nobody likes the Eye of the Jailer, so you kill it. And it is kind of a neat fight. I'm gonna start with that one. It's actually the second one tested, but it's kind of a neat fight. There's just a big eye, literally like a big old beholder
Okay.
with a platform. Like he's off the edge of a platform.
Okay.
When I say big, I mean like he's really big. Um,
I didn't see anything from it. Okay. Awesome. I'm interested.
so he's off the edge of the platform, and the platform is shaped like a U and extends around him. So he's sitting in the middle of it,
Okay.
in the like empty space of the U, and that's where you spend most of the time is like in the middle of it. But then, every like periodically, it's based on health percentage. He splits off. You kill two other smaller beholders, but you have to keep them apart.
Okay.
And while they're alive, they put puddles on the ground, and you have to like the puddles never go away, so you got to use the space, like fairly classic soft enrage kind of mechanic.
Right.
And then when he comes back down, he doesn't appear to do this in the very first round. But you do that a couple times, and in the final phase he does a like healing reduction, and you have to like bloodlust and kill it. But he does a gigantic laser beam. It kills you.
Really? Okay.
It sweeps the whole platform all the way around the U, and then some. So you
How do
cannot just run away from it.
Okay.
If you have something like the Venthyr Covenant ability, um, or Link through it, but it's very risky because this beam is really big. And like Soul
Yeah.
Shape works sometimes, but people had like a 50-50 hit rate on just like dying.
Oh Jesus.
But
Okay.
at each end of the U, there is a harpoon. You can click harpoon across to the other edge. And like that by itself,
Oh.
it's like very quick and responsive. That you go up and you like hit an extra action button, and you harpoon across, and it's kind of neat. But extra credit bonus stuff, you can hit the boss while you're doing it. So
Oh,
you can
while
be
you're still
harpooning
flying
across
across?
and just like smashing the boss while he's doing the
That's
feat.
awesome.
And that single little bit that you can still keep hitting the boss while you're in the air is
You're like
honestly
flying
just
across.
kind of just like this neat little thing that made it so much better.
I wonder if you can like transcend. I guess you
You
could.
can transcend. I
Yeah.
was actually playing my warrior for that testing,
Gotcha.
but you could definitely transcend.
Gotcha.
Babs was doing.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that seems awesome. Yeah. Room
Like
wise, I
it,
haven't seen any pictures of it, but that seems really cool.
it's a really simple boss, but again, it's the second boss of the raid, and it's on heroic. So,
Yeah.
um, and oh, I forgot. So it actually borrows one other mechanic from the actual Eye of the Jailer stuff, and that is the abductors that come down and like pick you up and try and like drop you on your head
Yeah.
in the maw. Those are in this fight,
Oh, really?
and they throw chains at people,
Okay. Do they
and
also lift them, or is it just like to slow
they
them?
try and drag them off the platform.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Which, by the way, there are no invisible walls. You can and probably will at some point walk off the edge.
Is
Play
it like
melee
how?
at your own peril.
That's funny. How wide is the platform?
It's pretty big.
Oh, it's pretty big. Okay, so there's not like
Uh,
you're not gonna like walk like roll as you're trying to get away from something like
oh
maybe
yeah, no,
sideways. You want to like
it's
roll at
very
them.
big.
Okay,
You have
gotcha,
lots and lots of room.
gotcha.
Um,
That's still really cool.
but so that's like a mechanic where the person that gets targeted with the chain has to let go and have other people soak it, so that there's
Gotcha.
enough weight, literally, to
So
keep
they
them from
can't get
getting
them pulled
dragged off
off.
the edge.
That's so cool.
And if you do it correctly, then it actually drags the ad down, and you have to kill them. So it's
Gotcha.
actually just like a really neat little fight. I enjoyed it.
Very cool. Very cool. And then so that sounds awesome. The harpoon thing seems really cool. I I don't know, adding movement stuff like that as long as it works well, I think is
Yeah.
really cool.
So you
Um,
might remember the like harpoons and chains that are actually in Torghast and
yeah.
how slow those are.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah.
This is not like that. This is not
Okay.
like that.
Good.
You can go and you can be like I don't. If you're a caster, you can be sitting next to the harpoons and just like casting the extra action button right before the beam hits you and be.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. That's good. Yeah, because I know the ones in Torghast we play this game. Me and my friends when we go in there is like who can jump off and still get pulled by it. Because like there's that half a second where you can jump off and it'll still pull you, but
yeah.
if you jump too early, you just fall to your death. So
Yeah.
we sort of play chicken with the chains of the grapples. Awesome. That sounds really cool. And then so the other boss on this was
Thursday.
Thursday was Kel'Thuzad, right?
Yeah, and this is very much like an ad fight. It's a little bit of a mix of
It's like original Kel'Thuzad.
yeah. It's a very interesting fight. Okay. So, it's basically a two-phase encounter that you alternate between. There's phase 1 where you're fighting Kel'Thuzad, and he does all of his frost magic nonsense. He like summons glacial spikes that are targeted at
Okay.
players, and they gotta like you can do positioning things with them, so you can position one where it's easy to clear down and stuff like that. You have to kill them, but you don't want to kill them on like exactly the same time because they do a big burst of raid damage.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
Um, and then the tech mechanic is very interesting and very cool. Um, he does this hit on the tank, that summons 3 ads that you
Okay.
have to kill. And for every ad that's alive, or well, it's slightly more common. I'll get to what actually in a second.
Yeah.
You have 500% increased physical damage taken. So
Okay.
they are really not screwing around. You taunt swap or you die, because
Yeah.
1500% increased damage taken. I had shield wall and shield block and ignore pain up, and just got one shot
Yeah.
by an auto attack. It's like you. This is going to be a very tight taunt swap. You have to do it, or he starts casting another ice bolt, or you will die.
Gotcha.
So then people kill the ads, and we were trying to figure out a way to like get them consistently spawned in certain locations, and couldn't figure out anything specific out in the time we had for testing.
Gotcha.
But when they die, they leave behind a spirit that the tank just has to run to and soak. And soaking it removes one of their stacks of the deep.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. That's an interesting way to handle the tank stuff.
So being Blood Decay seems like it kind of would suck for that because of how slow they are.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they can spawn very far apart. The room's fairly large, and they can spawn anywhere around kind of the edges of the room. Gotcha. So we had some where they like all spawn like right next to each other, and then some where they just spawned.
And I wonder if they changed that to like. I mean, do you have a lot of time between taunt swaps? Because I'm assuming
you have quite a bit of time. It was very lenient on, and again, this was heroic, so it was very lenient. The most challenging thing is, so when he hits 0% HP, it's an HP threshold. I don't remember offhand if it was 0% HP or if it was another HP threshold. Yeah. But I think it was 0. He basically assumes a spirit form, and some people have to go downstairs and attack its phylactery.
Yeah, nice. You actually have to kill it. Yes.
Yeah. And then the people upstairs have to deal with ads. These ads, if you still have the tank stuff up, one of the tanks just can't tank because they'll die.
God, yeah. That's crazy.
There is a little bit of push timer bullshit here, where like you need to not push Kel'thuzad with tank ads still alive.
Gotcha.
Or if they're like about to die, you can do it because there's a little bit of RP before the ads spawn, so you have time to like clean it up and get ready for the ads that spawn. But there's 2 big abominations that spawn, and they just do like a frontal thing. You just tank them on a wall and point the frontal into the wall, and it's really easy. Okay. And then there's some banshees, and the banshees fly around, and they actually hit really hard.
They're really high melee, right?
Slow.
Yeah. So those are literally the same ads then from are there little skeletons too?
Yes. Oh, I didn't get to those. There are little skeletons that are in phase 1.
So it's those are the 3 main ads from the original Kel'Thuzad fight. That's so cool that they brought them back. Because the Banshee, that's exactly what the Banshees did. I'm assuming let me guess.
Right. Tell me what the mechanics are, and I'll tell you.
All right, so the abominations are basically just large tank ads. Like you just have to tank them, DPS them. They don't really do anything special. Maybe cleave. I think the big one's cleave because you have to point them away.
Yes, that is exactly right.
Okay, so Banshee's high melee. I know you already said that, but they also probably have a cast.
Yes.
That needs to be kicked.
Yep.
As they come in. Very, very slow, which you already mentioned. And then the little ads, the skeletons, they exploded, but they have very low hit points, right?
Yeah, these ones did not have very low hit points.
Okay, well, yeah, but
they did explode. They would fixate on people and try and run to them and explode, and you could stun them and CC them.
Awesome.
But yeah, that was exactly what was going on, and you get more and more and more as the fight progresses. So it gets harder and harder to do. So there is like I don't know if there's a hard enrage, but there's definitely a soft enrage in eventually you'll have too many skeletons to kill in order to actually DPS the boss.
That's funny. That's awesome.
And extra twist, if you die, he periodically does a cast that raises dead. And it will raise dead players as minions.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So
I think
It's not
think
like it doesn't instant, like if you die right before the cast, it will res you immediately. But other than that, it's not like instant, so you have plenty of time to res people when they die, that kind of
gotcha.
thing. So I think from a progression perspective, a lot of the fight is going to be figuring out the balance of like sending enough people downstairs to kill the phylactery and keeping enough people upstairs to kill the ads,
Yes.
and then
Oh,
figuring
it's
out the
gonna be fun.
timings for when you want to kill glacial spikes versus push the boss versus oh, and there's also like a soak mechanic that like it targets a player, you soak it, but apparently putting freedom on there was removing it, so that probably won't go live, but be aware
Yeah,
that that was happening.
that's interesting.
But yeah, I mean, it's a boss that like has a lot of stuff. Like I just spent like 5 minutes just talking about all of the different mechanics that it's got, but it all of them are pretty like good. Like
Yeah.
I think it's a good boss.
I mean
Uh,
the original Kel'Thuzad was, I mean, it was decent. It was just, I think it was just hard in terms of execution.
right.
It was, I mean, it was hard for a fight back then too, but
And
it's cool that
Kel'Thuzad
they
is
brought back
actually
the ads.
the second to last boss in the end.
Right, right, yeah. Not
So
the jailer. Or not Sylvanas, sorry.
not
Like we
Sylvanas.
originally predicted.
Um, Speaking of predictions, I am going to check off the push timer bullshit
Yeah.
on
Seems
the
like,
predictions. This is
yeah, it seems like
definitely
this
push
one's gonna
timer
be rough,
bullshit,
yeah.
and we are going to get some more real dumb push timer bullshit before we finish recapping the raid testing from this week.
God. That's
Um,
funny. Um
so there's then we get to the stuff from Friday, which was
Fridays,
three
yeah.
bosses of testing, 3 hours of testing.
Jesus.
Uh, so the first one we did was Fatescribe. I don't remember.
Roh-Kalo?
Yeah, yeah,
Roh-Kalo? Yeah.
Fatescribe. We're gonna call him Fatescribe. Uh,
Fatescribe, yeah.
this fight honestly felt kind of weird in terms of number of mechanics. Not a lot
Gotcha.
going on. It's a two-phase fight. He alternates. That's
Okay.
actually kind of been a pattern this raid so far.
Yeah.
And in the main phase, he does not a lot. There's like some dots that go out and you have to heal them. There's beams that go out and you have to not be in them. And then he does a tank mechanic where the tank gets targeted with a thing called Heroic Destiny. You gotta run away from the raid. It does fall off damage, very much like Zymox. And then spawns an ad.
Easy.
If the ad reaches the tank, it does on heroic. It does 20k raid like damage to the entire raid every two
Okay.
seconds for 10 seconds.
It's not,
Which
okay.
you can heal through that. We did try
Yeah.
it. Like Trank by itself was not enough, but like Trank plus something else would be enough for it on heroic.
Yeah.
On mythic, it does almost 60k damage every tick.
Holy shit.
So they are very much like, yeah, you're not just soaking these. Like you might be
Jesus.
able to do it with one every once in a while,
Yeah.
and if you could do it, like if you could like bring enough DPS and push it so you only had like one per phase one iteration, then you might could just stack enough CDs to do it in the way that people did Mother back in BFA,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
where you just loaded up all of the raid CDs and hoped you lived.
Yeah.
Um, But so it's an ad, you just kill it. But it chases the tank. It's fairly slow. It can be CC'd in crowd control and all that stuff. It also has an energy bar and it's supposed to, when that energy bar gets full, explode and do that same thing.
Right. So you have like a
Um,
timer on doing it. Yeah.
right. It wasn't actually exploding when the energy bar got full on testing. Um, I assume that's just a bug. And that
Yeah.
it's actually going to do that on live. Um, because I was thinking, what if we just ignored them all and just like literally just had the tank taunt every single time it's about to go off and just
I just,
run around with them just forever. And that you're not supposed to be able to. The energy bars will get full, they will explode.
yeah. Yeah. So I have to
Um,
have a timer there. Okay.
and then in phase two, the real like highlight of the fight kind of mechanic comes up. And I'm gonna on stream, I'm gonna pull up uh kind of a picture of his room because it's going to be easier to explain. Basically, his room has 4 wheels on the ground that are
Okay.
they've got runes on them, and they rotate on the like they're embedded in the ground and they rotate around. And
Gotcha.
um during phase 2, each row, and this is something that like on heroic it wasn't consistent, but I assume that with a 20-player raid or just like in Mythic, it's going to be just all 4 of them you have to do every time.
Yeah.
It's going to light up a rune, and it's going to light up a location on the wheel that you have to rotate the rune into. And
Oh, okay. So they rotate around. Okay, these circles. Gotcha.
right. So then what happens is if you have an even number of players in the circle, I think it's even is counterclockwise and odd is clockwise. And so you just got to rotate them into the right locations. Nothing super complicated by itself, but
Yeah.
during this phase there are constantly spawning ads that just run around and need to be picked up by the tanks and need to get kicked and killed. And then also stun orbs just flying all over the place.
I saw I saw a video of this. It reminded me of the twin Valkyrie from AOTC. Or not what is Charlie Grand Crusader. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that predates me, but yeah. So you gotta get those in, and the timer on them is not so tight that it's like you have to do it. You can't get it wrong, at least on heroic.
Gotcha.
But you can't just have like 2 people go and do every ring. You will run out of time, and he will do a cast, and it will just explode, and everybody dies.
Does like do you need more than 2 people per
No,
ring?
it
Or can you
doesn't
do it
speed
like
up with
the
more people.
it's so like having 3 people in faster one way
You might
versus
as well
having
just have
like
one
one.
person and have the third
Okay.
person go help ads.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that doesn't seem too bad. You basically just need like 4 teams of 2 that sort of, yeah, somebody's always in and then the other person jumps in if they,
If it needs to. Yeah.
yeah. Because there's no other
So
ability that would pull someone out of the doing that,
not
is
on
there? Or,
heroic.
okay.
Um, one other slight quirk. So the floor actually like doesn't move under you. It's not like the Talic elevator that moves. So you have to like walk along with the rune, which means that like you can't just stand in it and have it. It's actually kind of annoying.
Oh,
And the runes were not very responsive when we did it. Like there were a couple of times that someone just stood in it for like 5 seconds before it started moving. Another time someone would go and stand in it and it would start moving immediately.
so the whole ring, so like if you're standing in the part, because I'm assuming there's like a portion you stand in to actually make it move.
Right.
So you'll move, but then will anyone else on that ring also move?
No.
Oh, so only
You don't
you.
move either. Just
Oh.
the texture on the floor basically moves.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So then you have to follow it. You have to stay in it to make it keep.
Oh, the little because I watched it. So okay, okay. So like the little area you have to stand in moves along the
Right.
circle, not the whole ring
Well,
moves.
the whole ring moves, but it's not actually like a real like elevator kind of thing that moves
Okay,
your character along with the floor. Like the texture on the floor moves, but your
yeah,
character stays in the same spot.
that sounds super annoying. I
It
already hate
is
this fight.
it seemed very annoying. I was obviously tanking, so I didn't do it,
Yeah,
but
and
it
but
seemed
that
very
seems
annoying.
dumb. Yeah.
Um,
Worse. So hands down, going to hate this fight. I think.
uh, I mean, it seems fine. It's a relatively early boss from what I could tell,
Yeah.
so it's going to be probably a little bit of a gimmicky fight. And so this is another one alternating phase 1, phase 2, except phase 3 is the last phase 1. And in phase 3, it's actually just phase 1, except you have to do the rune mechanic periodically during phase 1.
God.
Which I didn't really talk too much about the beams earlier, but the beams are actually going to be kind of a big deal for that because beams are huge.
Oh yeah.
So imagine you break the room up into 4 quadrants. It's a circular room, so you end up with like these triangle things. 2 of the triangles, always opposite each other, are filled up. The other 2 are open,
Okay.
and it just kills you if you're in it right now. Just kills you. So it
That's
really like
awful.
pushes you to be like in the center of the room and like
Yeah, yeah. Grouping up. Yeah, that's so. Ugh. Yeah, this fight already sounds not fun, but I guess we'll see once you get to play it. So to
Yeah.
play it out.
I think
But
it'll be fine as long as they make the wheels on the ground more responsive, basically. Like, because there's not
that
really that much else going on.
yeah, the root. I mean, it seems like a cool mechanic. Like I enjoy like when you talk about that, when you talk about the Eye of the Jailer with like the movement, like the grapple stuff, right? Um, I'd say Kel'Thuzad's a new thing, but like going downstairs has always been it's been like a hallmark, right, of WoW
Right.
encounters. But the rune stuff I think is cool. Because it reminds me of like the Mechatork sort of mechanic where it's like there's
Right.
not a weak aura that lets you do this, that it requires you to coordinate with other people in your raid, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Um, it's not like a pure execution fight. So they need to start. I think they at least have to have one of these in the raid every tier. I don't know what would be this like Nathria. I guess would might be Zymock, but I
I
mean to
think it
be
would be
fair,
Zymox with the seeds. Like,
yeah. But I mean, figure that out one pretty quick. Like that one, I think was less of a like once you assign people to do it, it was pretty much a standard execution thing. Like
yeah.
with the Mechatork stuff, like not everyone who was like not that was random on who got small enough to actually enter in the mechs to have the
Right.
conversation, right? So, um,
Yeah. I don't know that
yeah,
there's not really a, like, you must communicate without a weak aura kind of thing.
yeah, for Castle Nathria,
Cancel that.
yeah. But it seems, I mean, that part seems cool. I just if it's not responsive, but if it's like buggy and stuff like that, it's just that's gonna be the stuff that kills it, right?
Yeah.
Like in terms of like,
It's gonna live or die on how responsive those wheels on the ground, those runes on the ground are. If they're very responsive, you can like step in, step out, and you have to just like fall around. That's gonna be
yeah,
fine. I think it'll be really, really kind of a neat mechanic. The boss is probably not gonna be too bad. I didn't look at the mythic mechanics in too much detail yet, other than to
gotcha.
check the damage on the explosion to see if it was even feasible to like plan to soak some of the ads. And
Yeah,
unless you can guarantee that you're only going to get like one ad per phase, I don't think it's possible.
gosh, that's funny.
Or if HP scales a lot harder than
Yeah,
I think it would. But yeah.
nice.
Uh the next boss we tested yesterday was Remnants of Ner'zhul. Remnant of Ner'zhul.
Okay,
This fight's bad. Okay. This fight
okay,
is knockback city. So you're on a circular platform floating in the air.
okay,
And so there's two different main knockbacks on this fight. Periodically, he applies malevolence to two targets, or I guess it probably scales with raid size. We had 12 people, so it was mostly we only ever got two. Um,
gotcha.
and you gotta just dispel. It knocks people back when they get dispelled, and it knocks them back when they get dispelled. But it goes off their facing, so they can like face the edge of the platform, get dispelled, and it knocks them towards the center.
Gotcha.
Um,
Wait, so it knocks back the dispeller and
it knocks back the entire raid.
oh,
The whole raid gets knocked back.
when you dispel a single debuff.
Yes, there's two of them, and it comes out relatively frequently, so you're getting knocked back a lot.
Sounds awful, dude.
Oh, I'm not
Okay.
even done yet. Then there's another
Okay.
one called I don't remember actually what it's called. It puts basically three wedges on the ground. You're supposed to not stand in them. If you do stand in them, it knocks them back, knocks you back, and deals a bunch of damage. So it seems like a fairly standard just don't stand in the void zone. Except it was also like always knocking back the boss's primary threat target, aka
Yeah.
the tank.
God.
It was
Yeah.
really dumb. Um, so that's all great. And that's not even supposed to be really one of the main mechanics. Like it felt like those were kind of afterthoughts, just like kind of standard, like standard
Yeah.
void zone, standard dispel. I think the frequency on the dispel was probably too high, but whatever. The
The
actual
whole ring.
kind of main mechanic of the fight is the boss has like a two-part tank combo
Okay.
that he hits them with blight, and then 6 seconds later he hits them with suffering. And the suffering hit is like racking pain on Denathrius. You point that at some ads, and they take triple damage or quadruple damage. And so basically, the tank just has to point those at the ads. Except that the ads can spawn in random locations. They're these little orbs that just spawn, and they have a lot of health. And so you really do need the
Gotcha.
and they can spawn in random locations. They can spawn very spread out, and it basically makes tank positioning extremely chaotic because like you have no idea where they're gonna go. They don't spawn on players or anything, so you can't bait them. Um,
Gotcha. Just to be self-aware, like, to be almost fully aware of the entire room and where
right.
stuff is.
And the spawn timer for them doesn't like. We had instances where the boss would do a tank combo and then the ads would spawn and we would have to just wait for another one, which is really annoying. But the ads don't actually do very much. You just don't want to let them add up too much because they do like a little bit of raid damage. So it's not the end of the world if
Gotcha.
you have to wait, at least on heroic. It's just like you do need to eventually kill them because they will eventually overwhelm the healers.
Gotcha.
Um,
Interesting.
and the cone for that suffering thing is very narrow. So if you are doing the spells at the same time, you're gonna miss. If the wedge knockbacks come out at the same time, you're gonna miss. Especially since the wedge knockbacks always knocked back the tank.
God.
So it was
Does he
actually
does
just
he does
really
he move
tilting.
on those wedges? Like, is the wedge knockback a cast? Like, can you move out of it, or it's just like you're
You
gonna
can
get
move
hit
out of
by
it.
it?
It's like they appear on the ground, you move out of it, it's fine. Except
Gotcha.
he knockbacks the tank. That one I feel like is a bug, but it was really, really annoying. Oh my god. And
Does all
then
this stuff? Oh, sorry. One more
okay,
question. Sorry, I don't mean to ask. Does
yeah,
all
yeah.
this stuff originate from the center of the room or from the boss? In
Center of
terms
the
of
room.
like, okay, so it doesn't matter where the boss is
Right.
in the room. Okay, cool.
The
I was
suffering
gonna
thing is
because
the only thing that actually comes from the boss. When you do knockbacks, when you do the dispel knockbacks, they come from wherever the person that was dispelled. They leave a little voids on the ground. So we were just having them like run to the edge. They get dispelled and then they come back.
gotcha.
Um, but
More knockbacks.
but then there's one extra.
Oh, there's more.
There's more. He does every like 20% HP or something. I don't remember the exact HP thresholds. He does this thing called shatter, and it's actually like you shatter a piece of the armor off,
Okay.
and it does a bunch of like circles appear on the ground. You gotta not get hit by them, like a rain of stuff that you gotta
Yeah.
not be in. If you have a blight cast on the tank and then shatter happens, it cancels suffering, so you can't debuff the ads.
Dude. This is
So
why
we
this is gonna be a
actually were on
fight.
PTR stopping DPS on the first in the very beginning of the fight to wait for the tank debuff to go out so we could get it on the first set of ads, and then continue DPSing the boss.
This turns into another. What was it? Was it Mithrax? What was the second last boss in EP?
Zakul.
Zakul. If this turns into another Zakul where you're literally waiting 90 seconds at the
And
start of the fight.
I think that probably was overkill because of how inconsequential the ads being up seemed. It's like you need to
Gotcha.
keep them from overwhelming you, but you don't need to kill them insta.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably overkill, at least for heroic. If on mythic that ends up being really important to get them killed ASAP, then it's gonna be a really bad time, honestly.
Dude. I hate it. I just Blizzard just didn't do this thing where they like had like I get spell queuing. I get why you use it because you don't want the fight to be like a scripted robotic encounter and there'd be some level of variability like from week to week. Like I get why that is good and will keep people engaged in your game. But like stuff like
Yeah,
this where it's like it interrupts like it's just ugh because like the only way you realize something like that is like you actually making the mistake the first time, which I
yeah.
guess is fine, but it's just I don't know.
It's it's really annoying.
Yeah, it just seems more annoying than anything.
Oh, and then one last annoyance for me, and this is really just a tank thing. So on Denathrius, when racking pain happens, the boss is rooted in place. He does not move, and that
Right.
means that you have a much you're pretty free in moving around to get it pointed in the right direction to hit what you're trying to hit, which
Yeah.
is really good. There's no moves during it.
Okay, because I know that our tanks on Denathrius will like when we try and debuff both of them, they'll plant the boss on one side, then when he goes to cast, they'll like move to the other side so they stand on the other ad. So like
Yeah,
they know he's gonna hit both of it, right?
yeah. And that's an easy and very reliable way to do it. You cannot do that with
Yeah.
suffering.
Oh god, dude.
And
Yeah, with the
we
narrow
didn't
counters.
try. One of the things I wanted to try, but I didn't have my normal co-tank in there, so is having like after blight, having the other person tank or taunt, and then have the see if the suffering went on the first tank. I think from the wording of the dungeon journal, it should. And so then maybe the idea is that your co-tank keeps it in place, and you point the
Oh, you,
suffering to
yeah.
people. Except that you would then have to taunt back because the suffering debuff doesn't like it's not on a one. It puts a debuff on the tank, and it's not on like a
Gotcha.
one taunt cycle. It's on the two taunt cycle. So you like back so you don't stacking up the debuff. It's I don't know.
Seems
Really
like super
unclear.
complicated. You get into potentially like DRing taunts and stuff
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh man. Well, that's fun.
That fight
So
seems like a mess.
we've got like one a mess fight, one fight with like rings that don't make sense but seem cool. So cool. Then you got Kel'Thuzad 2.0. So
Yeah.
not too bad so
There's
far.
actually one more fight that we tested yesterday, which I will just say right away. This is very clearly like a mostly complete fight. It's another
Gotcha.
one that's fairly basic, but it's honestly just a bunch of mechanics that are fun to do. So I don't
This is
mind.
so this is the one boss I actually caught testing of. At least watched some videos of it.
Okay. So this is Soulrender. I don't remember the rest of his name. But this is the Garrosh boss. The Soulrender is rending the soul of Garrosh. And this is actually just a really solid fight all around. So you're in this area, and the platform is actually important. It's got like 4 wedges. Imagine it like a piece of a circle, and it's got 4 wedges in it. And one of the main mechanics is called Torment, and 3 of those wedges fill up with red goo, and you need to not be in it because it will kill you. I don't know if it literally one shots on heroic, but on mythic it definitely will. It at the very least does a lot of damage. So you
Yeah.
need to not be in it. So you just move from the 3 wedges that are filled to the 1 wedge that is not. Easy enough. He does a very basic like tank thing where you just taunt on one and not. That's not the interesting.
Yeah.
He will periodically summon ads. These are like the soul
Okay.
infusers from Kel'Thuzad.
Okay.
And you need to kill them. They can be stunned, CC'd, they can be gripped. Mass grip was extremely good.
Nice.
Mass grip
More
and
game.
grabby hands, very very
Nice.
good. And ring of peace also very good because you can drop it in front of them and they stay in place. Uh,
Nice.
so like there's a lot of stuff that's very good there. The ads actually have kind of a lot of health though. So he also puts brands out on people. If you do you remember on Argus, the like the anger
Yeah.
hatred mechanic in phase one that put like
Yeah.
the marks on
You
people?
had to stand in one of you. Yeah. Yeah. You had different camps.
So it's that animation, and it's a kind of similar mechanic. Everybody that's standing in it takes 50% increased damage and has a small dot. Um, including the ads.
Oh,
So what
okay.
we were doing is mass gripping all the ads together. You get 2 of those brands, at least on the size that we were doing it, and just having those 2 people stack on top of the ads and just nuke them, and they die
Oh,
so
very
fast
cool.
because they
That's
take
so
double
cool.
damage at that point. Um,
Yeah. Well,
so
that's fun.
that was fun. And then those after you get the first set of ads, those brands continue throughout the rest of the fight, and you do need to be careful not to stack on top of the group with them because they do take extra damage.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a thing like on Argus where you do like hatred goes left or rage goes left, whatever they were called, uh, and you have them like not on top of the melee, and that's pretty neat. That's not a lot of mechanics. So there's 2 more. One of them is Encore of Torment. This is a mechanic I think very similar from Fallen Avatar. I didn't do Fallen Avatar, but basically what it
Okay.
does is the boss runs to Garrosh and starts channeling, and he starts doing torment. And or sorry, it's more like the safety dance. So you
Hagen.
stand in
Yes. Yes.
one of the torment slices, and then you just move along. Except that he always does 5. So you always have to go from one edge of the platform back to the other edge. So Warlock, we didn't have a Warlock, but a Warlock gateway would be
Yeah.
extremely good for that. He does it more than 2 minutes apart, so you can just use a Warlock.
Yeah.
But it is doable without that. We did it with Windrush Totem. Um,
Very cool. Yeah, that I've seen that. That's some of the videos that I've seen, and then I've seen people make fun of it, like the dance is back. So,
yeah,
referencing Hagen, from Nax.
and it so it actually has a little interesting like positioning quirk. So the where the boss stands during it depends on where you were tanking him when it starts. So
Okay,
you want to be tanking him in a spot that the melee can still hit him for 3 of the 4 slices. You can never get all 4. You can get 3. So you want to be tanking him in one of basically like one of the inner 2 slices, but not like in the dead center. So you can still
right.
hit him on the outer edge, one to the left and the one to the right of that. Um,
Very. Oh yeah. Okay, so yeah, I guess so. He just turns and starts casting that like in place essentially.
he runs to like the edge of the
Oh,
platform
like
when
at
it
the front
starts
of the
to.
platform. Oh, okay, yeah. But
Yeah,
if you
so
have him in
if you
that pizza
imagine
slice,
like
he doesn't.
like it's a slice of pie and Garrosh is
Yeah.
at the point, he runs up to Garrosh and he does it.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then there's one more mechanic, and that
Okay.
is the chains. So 3 chains appear in front of Garrosh, and you have to break the chains before Garrosh finishes. He's got like a 30-second cast.
Okay.
If he finishes, it's just a raid wipe. It just instant.
Gotcha.
When you break a chain, it does huge raid AoE. So you need to not break all 3 chains at the same time. Even with
Fair.
Spirit Link, it kills you, even on heroic.
Oh wow. Okay. You
Um,
gotta stagger him.
so you
Okay.
gotta stagger them. It's fairly lenient. You've got 30 seconds, but later in the fight, it overlaps with Encore of, or not Encore of Torment, but it overlaps with Torment. So you get like the pizza slice that you have to stand in,
Yeah.
which makes it more challenging to do. Um, so like the later part of the fight has some overlaps like that. There was nothing too brutal on heroic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We had a 5% wipe, but we weren't done trying out different things with the ads, so we just jumped off. So wipe 5%,
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody's
Yeah. Yeah.
alive, no B versus U is kind of like wipe because we were testing
Yeah.
things. Um, oh, okay, which is back.
Yeah.
Um, so this like honestly, I've been pretty impressed with most of the bosses. I think this is gonna be a good boss. I got some
Awesome.
phase 1 Argus vibes from it. It seems good. And another thing, another like monk specific thing is that a lot of these bosses have a physical damage amp that you can use to choose damage with it. So like this boss, Soulrender,
Nice.
that makes you take, I think it's double physical damage, which is totally healable. You can 100% just let the monk keep it and sit there spamming purifies with Angry Dave. And I would not be surprised to see some cheese parses in 9.1 with the Mighty Poor Legendary that gives you extra purifies and Angry.
Oh, interesting.
And
Interesting.
you just tank the boss to ridiculous levels of stacks and then hit Dave and then just delete the boss. And I am super excited
That's
about that.
awesome.
That's gonna be fun. Um, but that's not gonna be a prog thing. That's gonna be like a sludge fist solo tank kind of thing.
Yeah. 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 Interesting. Yeah. Well, let's see. I mean, it's funny. A lot of the healers that I talked to on this one basically said like there will be probably 100% increases in damage done because they said there just isn't a lot of damage in the
Yeah,
testing that was done.
that is
Um.
100% correct. There was very little damage going out. It seemed like
Yeah.
the way the ads that are up all have a cast, but it's a very long cast, and you have a lot of time to interrupt it. And then when you grip them together, you can just AOE stun them. Like they have
Yeah.
DRs and stuff, but by the time we DR'd our stuns, they were dead.
Gotcha.
So I expect we did once just to see what happened. We let one go into the boss area, and what happens is they just sit there, they do triple damage, they're CC immune, and they just like spam their cast, and it's really bad. That will wipe you very quickly. So it's almost just a wipe to let one through. But if you kick the casts, there's very little damage.
Gotcha.
Probably the main thing that is going to kill people if it were to go live right now would just be like someone being a melee being a dum dum and standing in both of the red circles and just dying because it actually does a decent bit of damage when you're standing.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
But yeah, I would not be surprised to see a bunch of like, oh, this number went up by a bunch, this number went up by a bunch, just a bunch. Right now, almost all of the damage is avoidable. So the only it was very much on PTR. It was very much like 100% of the damage was greater than the chain breaks.
That's
So,
funny. Yeah, I mean it'll be. I'm excited. It seems like the fights, at least that have been tested so far, because this is not every fight. Like Sylvanas is still is untested.
Sylvanas is still untested. That actually, remember what other fights have
There's
not
one.
been
I think
tested
there's
yet?
one other. There was 5 this week. Well, no, I think it should just be Sylvanas because there was 5 this week and 4 in the first week of
Is there?
testing. Not last week, but the week before. So it's 9. Should only
Is
be
this?
Sylvanas left. But uh,
Oh well. Yeah. So we've got 1 or 2 bosses that haven't been tested yet. Sylvanas still has me worried because of ranged boss nonsense. And that's actually
yeah,
one element of like Kel'Thuzad that I would like them to change. He does a cast like Jaina has. Um,
gotcha.
and it's honestly really annoying because what can happen is that he does the thing on you. You're taking 1500% increased physical damage, and um, then he immediately starts casting an ice shard on you,
Yeah, which it doesn't.
so you die.
Yeah.
You just die. Um,
Wait,
you
so
can talk.
the
There is a
casts are
cast
physical?
for the thing that puts the debuff on you,
Yeah.
so you can taunt during the cast, and then your Kotan cast threat after, and then you're fine. But right now, you basically have to do that because otherwise, he can queue up a ice shard during that cast and can cast it right away. And like
Gotcha.
On Jaina, if a cast had started, even if you taunted, that cast was still going on the original.
Yeah, she still finishes on. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that. I remember that. Interesting. Interesting. Well, I
So
mean, that seems annoying, but I mean, dance ball seems cool. Rune boss, I think if they get it right, seems cool. Kel'Thuzad is. I think it's gonna be awesome. I'm
yeah,
really excited about that. So yeah, hopefully, I think the one thing I don't know if you did this, but for Kel'Thuzad, I hope both the phases when you split the raid to go up and down. I hope both are at least interesting because it.
yeah.
I will tell you that like N'Zoth had that very similar thing where like the upstairs
The upstairs was
people
just
got
boring, and the
boring,
downstairs
right?
phase was the fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and down well, fun, we'll say. The downstairs part was like
I enjoyed
heart attack inducing levels of stress,
it.
trying to make sure the psychist didn't like skate away and like still stayed close enough to the things you were killing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I
I
I
digress.
like the psychic. Um, but yeah, I didn't go downstairs because we sent a tank downstairs once just to see if there was
Yeah.
anything downstairs for them to do, and there was not. So no tanks went downstairs. Um,
Okay.
so and the banshees will melee whoever is in range. It I don't know if they have a threat table or not. It seemed like they were fixating random targets and just very slowly following them. So
Gotcha.
I think the
Gotcha.
play is going to be melee go downstairs and burn the phylactery, range stay upstairs and like multi dot and kill the ads.
Yeah, because there's multiple ads. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah. Particularly with like fixate ads and everything like that, you want to be able to get away from something and still be able to do damage to it.
yeah. So
Cool. Awesome, awesome. Well, that's raid testing. Let's do anything else. Those fights seem real. It sucks
yeah,
I miss
it was
it's a
a lot
bad
of raid
time for me.
testing. I have spent a lot of time on PTR this week.
Nice, nice, nice. Well, I don't think we're done. I think we have one other thing you wanted to, I think, specifically talk about, which was Torghast, basically. So, sort of give your thoughts on the new. We talked about it last week, right? They implemented a new scoring system for Torghast, essentially combining like speed and points, right? Like doing different things while on a level gives you points.
Yeah,
Doing it faster also gives you points. The more points you get, the better rewards you get at the end of your run. This, of course, is to combat like if you ever get stuck and can't progress, you're still gonna get something out of it.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, so how? I guess question: how is it?
Um, so we're getting, for one thing, we're getting 4 new floors or levels or whatever they're called on Torghast. So
Mhm.
it's gonna go like right now the max one you can do is 8, and the recommended eye level is like 195 or something. It's gonna go up to 12, and the top one maxes out at eye level 230. So actually, if you're mythic geared right now, it's still gonna be a cakewalk. You are actually just gonna be able to walk through the whole thing and not worry about it. I did that on my monk today. I got all the way up to 12. I never had any issues at all. It was very
Nice.
easy. I even had runs where I didn't get corrosive dosage, and I still got 4 stars.
Nice.
As brewmaster, it falls.
Okay.
Which I think that problem that Torghast has right now is still there. It's still very easy.
Gotcha.
And they have added, in addition to the new scoring system, they have added that talent tree that people have been talking about. That's really, I haven't looked too much at it, but it has one talent in the first row that is very interesting, and that is adds blessings to your run. So you get torments, and the torments are non-negotiable. Once you go beyond layer 8, layers 9, 10, 11, 12 each add a... Actually, I think layer 6 they start getting added. There's just 2 torments. These replace the things from current Torghast where like Cold Heart Interstitia has increased mob health.
Yep.
The fire one has this stupid dot. So there's a bunch of them. And right now on PTR they're rotating daily. I think just for testing. But every day you go and there's a different set. And the same with the blessings. The blessings, unlike the torments do various negative things. There's one that like spawns a phantasma ad that you have to kill or it runs off with part of your phantasma. That one's still a little bit buggy. It sometimes spawns the ad really far away, and I had a couple times where I actually couldn't find it before it got away. Like I just had no idea where it was.
That's funny.
But when it works, that's one of the more benign ones. There's one, and I'm going to soapbox for just a second here.
Okay.
There is a torment. Is just mobs have 25% more health. It's so dumb. Why is this in the game? Why is this one of the torments? Like, and so, Preach has a really good video on Torghast. I am going to put it in the show notes. You should watch it because he's very blunt and has a lot of really good points. But it's very clear that they have taken inspiration from Hades. Hades is a very good game. If you have not tried it, you should go and try it. We're in this in between patches lull. It's a great game. It's $20. Go play it.
Good.
But once you get through it the first time, you have the option, emphasis on option, to add basically torments. They call it the heat system. You get to start cranking up the heat by adding difficulty. You get to pick. There's one that puts a time limit on it that I'm a fan of that gives you like 5 minutes per floor. And that one I really like. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy the time limited, just go fast and kill things kind of gameplay. There's another one in there that does increase mob health. Like, it's in there. It's optional. And I don't like it because I don't like sitting there and waiting for things to die. So I just don't take it. And this is also a little bit of WoW tuning does not allow that kind of thing to work well, in my opinion. Because even in Hades, it's not just that they take longer to kill. Because they take longer to kill, you have way more chances of just dying to their mechanic. And the trash in Torghast does not have mechanics. By and large, they just auto-attack you. And there's nothing interesting about making them live longer. You're not going to suddenly, like, they're not going to get an extra use of some special ability or something like that because they live 25% longer.
Yeah, or there's one that you like particularly want to focus because it, either enrages or becomes difficult, right? Like it has some sort of stacking buff or anything like that.
It's really just like, why make it take 25% longer? Just remove that one from the pool, put something else there. They've got some really neat ones. They've got what were some of them? I should have written this down. Honestly, most of the torments I didn't notice that much, and some of that is because the blessings that I got. So I spent all of my Torghast knowledge in the talent tree on unlocking 2 of the blessings, and the 2 for today. One of them is a stacking movement speed increase. Like, while you are moving, you get a stacking movement speed increase. Stacks up to 20 times, and it caps out at plus 100% movement.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm down.
So you just keep moving, and you're a race car. and you're going at full mounted speed. It's great,
Oh,
and
nice.
bonus tacked on top. It gives you basically a lightning shield. Um,
Oh,
but
that's
it's not like
cool.
a lightning shield where if things hit you, it does damage to them. It's a lightning shield. Like if you've played League of Legends, Diana has that shield that puts the orb around you.
That is.
All right, so it's like the orbs spin around you, and if they run into something, they do damage.
Oh, so it's like Wisp from Dota 2,
Yeah,
an actual MOBA. Got it. Cool.
yeah, it's like that. And it was very, it seemed very buggy. It didn't do it all the time, but it was reliable enough that it was like 7% of my damage.
Okay,
So
that's nice.
it's pretty substantial.
That's
But
awesome.
honestly, I just love being able to just run fast. Like
Yeah,
not being able to mount in Torghast is honestly a crime, but this makes it
that sounds
palatable.
yeah. That's
Um,
awesome.
the other
So do you?
blessing,
So sorry, real quick before you get so. Oh, sorry. Complete. Finish with the other blessing. Sorry,
okay,
and then I have a
the other
question. Yeah.
blessing, non-boss enemies, elite enemies, when they hit 40% health, have a chance to die,
Like just outright.
outright die. And by boss, the elites at the end of the floor were not counted as bosses. So literally
But
just the final boss is the only thing right now that was not counted. They couldn't.
either okay, because they did they remove. So it would be like the floor. What was it the old like floor 3 and 6 had like an end boss in the middle of it,
So
right?
floor three
Was
right now on live does not have a boss. It's just the vendor.
oh right. Oh
Yeah.
right. Cause okay,
So
yeah,
now
sorry. Yep,
it's
you're right.
five
So
floors instead of six. So at the end of floor five, there's a vendor, or well, on
yeah,
floor five, there's a vendor in the final boss.
gotcha. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So it's just that that's basically the only thing that counts as the boss. Everything
Yeah.
else is
So
yeah. Okay.
that honestly is like really huge for the amount of time stuff takes to kill because like
Yeah.
it's not everyone, but it was often enough that I didn't read the blessing before I went in there. I
Yeah.
just like, and you don't get to choose these either. They are also on the rotation. Like
Gotcha. And you
uh,
just do you have to turn them on or you just get them
you
when you
just get
zone in?
them. So you have to unlock. It's in the first row of the talent thing. You do have to put points in it, so it's not like
Right.
for free, but it's a very low amount of points. Like I had just from doing the Torghast weekly, like what I would be doing for Torghast weekly, I had enough for two, and then the third
Okay.
one, uh, like you can continue running Torghast and get more Torghast knowledge and fill out more of the talent tree. It's got like a Valor kind of system where there's a weekly cap that goes up on the amount of knowledge you can have, which I think is kind of dumb. Like if I want to grind Torghast and just fill out the talent tree, just let me grind Torghast and fill out the talent tree. Come on, you don't have to time gate it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing they time gated for is like legendaries, but even then, well,
You
no, because legendaries are still weekly, right? On the
yeah,
floors you complete. Yeah,
yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, it's stupid. That's dumb. I don't like it.
But it is in the first row. You're probably gonna have two of them the first week, and then the third one the week after if you just do the weekly stuff.
Gotcha.
Um, and they like honestly, I barely noticed the torments that were in. The only one I really noticed is the Phantasma ad because it gives you like a yell basically when it spawns,
Yeah.
and you have to go chase it. Couldn't find it a couple times.
So funny. Yeah.
Um,
That's cool. It's cool that they like I'm liking that they added the torment system in and like replacing the sort of the floor specific torments, right?
yeah,
Or whatever, like the wing specific torments, which I think were sort of if you got a bad week, it was just tough to do it. And now it's like, well, you might get a bad combination of torments, but I guess maybe this might be worse. But
yeah, because that applies to both.
yeah,
I will
but I
say
mean,
that like I don't know why we still have to do two wings because they're both the same now. They just have literally different graphics.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's
so
still
that's a little
um
bit weird.
but I guess from like a lore perspective, like the two wings make sense in terms of like you should weaken the enemies in both wings to collect their rewards.
But like
I
it
don't
just
know.
gives you double the reward for doing it like the one time. Honestly,
That's true.
just make the one run 10 floors instead of five. And then you just have to do the one. And I understand they probably won't do that because they want it to be like bite size. People can go in and go out. But
Yeah,
it's
that's fun.
yeah. So I know I actually when I said I want to talk about Torghast, I had done Torghast, and I didn't have any of the talent stuff unlocked yet. I was just dealing with the torments, and I saw that 25% increased HP torment, and I was like, that is really
You're
dumb.
ready to
Like,
hate it.
um,
Shit out of here.
but and then I also the first when I did Torghast on PTR on like Wednesday,
Yeah.
it didn't unlock the higher floors for me. It also didn't give me this score graphic. The score graphic is still really buggy for me. Sometimes show up and it will sometimes will not show up. So I'm not sure if that's what's going on with that. I was playing with add-ons because I came out of raid testing, so
Gotcha.
I had add-ons on for raid
Look at
testing.
that, yeah.
So that might be interfering with that, but I don't know what's up with that. But I will say, you're not going to want to stop and do chests anymore, the way it works right now,
because of the speed.
Because of the speed thing. It everything else, like you can do pretty much everything else in Torghast, and it's worth it. If you need the powers, like you can do all the stuff in the nooks and crannies, do all the searching, but doing chests just takes too long for the amount of like stuff the streak bar that they give. It just takes too long. And that's the other thing too about the HP stuff is it actually is just like eye level gating this stuff.
Yeah.
Because the number of stars you get at the end depends on how long you did it. At the end of the day, that is just a fact. If you do everything, then you can still get all 5 stars, but you have to be doing everything quickly.
Yeah.
So by making it 25% more HP that you have to burn through everywhere, it's just like going to require that much more gear in order to get the 5 stars. Which right now you only need 4 stars to get the next floor unlocked. So I think so I was playing in tank spec. I was not really having very good luck with powers. I think I got like 3 corrosive dosages total over 5 runs. So I was really not having good luck with powers.
That's still good that it's not like super tight in terms of like the checks or whatever that.
Yeah, so like in tank spec, I was still able to get through it. I don't know if they have any sort of like maybe it's easier in tank spec than it would yes spec, or maybe I would have been able to just 5-star smash everything yes spec.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's I don't know, I really just don't like that torment. If it were something where it were optional, if it were like in Hades where, you know, in order to continue getting rewards, you have to turn the heat level up.
Right.
And if that were the case, and I could pick my torments, like there is obviously like in Hades, there's a cap. Like there's a cap on the amount of heat that you can get, and it's just the point at which you have everything turned on. But there's just so much different stuff you can turn on that like I've done like 15 and 20 heat runs and not had to turn on mobs that have extra HP.
Yeah, I mean I think yeah, it's just an uninteresting torment. I think is the problem with it, and it just leads to unfun parts of like wanting to. It's like sort of the opposite of what you want to do.
Right.
But while you're in Torghast, right, which is go fast, get those points, you know, and things like that, and this sort of puts a dampening on it. That's not it. It's like artificially inflating it, right? Because you just skip doing it this week. It'll be like not doing certain affixes in Mythic Plus because the combination of them suck, right?
Yeah.
So
except that the Soul Ash and Soul Cinders are still weekly, so you still want to do it every week.
Exactly, which is the trouble, yeah.
So I actually really wish that like there's a whole lot of talents in that talent tree. Like maybe just like skip putting in the back half of them and just give us a little dialogue that if we want to do a level 12, you know, Torghast, we pick 12 torments. And like Hades does it with multiple levels, so you can have like the time limit one that I like as like you start it off, you pick it, and it gives you like a 12-minute time limit for each floor. And then you crank it up and it's 7, you crank it up again and it's 5.
Oh, okay, so it's sort of like there's
so
like ranks
like if you want to, you can have that be, you know, that's worth three levels. So then if you like just having the mobs have more HP, like you can have like one level is 10%, two is 15, and three is 5 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just like let me opt out of the stuff that I don't like.
Gotcha. Because I think too there was I thought there was something in the talent tree that removed torments, so maybe
There
that might be
is.
the way
That's on the
around it.
second row.
Yeah. So
I have not opted into that one yet. I wanted to see what the torments were for 412, and honestly, I don't remember because it didn't matter. Um,
fair enough.
I did have. Oh, I do remember one of the torments was that bosses had an elite ad with them, and honestly,
That's
it
annoying.
didn't really matter because that elite ad, that blessing that when they hit 40% they could die. I had that happen
Yeah.
every time, so they just like they hit 40% and died. So I just AoE.
Yeah.
It was
Just to
fine.
focus. That's funny.
I could see it being a problem if I had been playing Windwalker just because of sustain.
Right, yeah.
But for tank, it was a joke. So
That's not too bad. I mean, it seems like the changes, other than like one of the torments being uninteresting, like the rest of the changes you're pretty okay with, like the score system, the blessings.
on the whole, I'm fairly okay with it, but it's not. It hasn't turned Torghast into something that I look forward to, right?
It's different.
Yeah, it's still got the problem that it's extremely easy.
Yeah.
It is extremely, extremely easy, and some of that is a product of gear, but that's not something that I can change at this point, right? Like, I have the gear,
Right.
and the fact that my current raid gear is actually good enough to trivialize the next tier of Torghast is actually like indicative of the fact that it's not going to change. Like, I was able to just walk through floor 12 or layer 12 on my monk and
Well, sorry, but I mean,
4 stars.
like in my mind, twisting corridors is like the difficult part
Well, like,
of
there's a difference
Torghast.
between like it being trivial and it being like really hard, right?
Well, so here's the thing: is that to get the maximum amount of currency to make your legendaries per week, you have to do it 12.
Right.
So like the idea is that Blizzard's never going to make it so hard that only like the mythic level individuals can do it, because at that point
Right, but they
it's
could
the
maybe make it hard enough that I'm not like actually looking at my other monitor watching anime with subtitles on, um, while I do Torghast.
I mean that's one way to do it. I mean, I think the way the difficulty curve for Torghast, and they've talked about this, is like they can't they can't put something you have to do locked behind content that a large majority of the player base can't do,
Yeah,
right? Whether that's and primarily, whether that's through skill or whatever, they have to be able to at least reward something. And I guess that's what this new system does. That if you get to a 12 and you can't complete floor 12, you still get something by getting a couple, stars or whatever, gems, whatever you
yeah.
want to call it,
Like
right?
basically because of they removed the death counter, so there's no longer you can die as much as you want. It might take
Right,
you 2 or 3 hours, but if you can eventually kill that last boss, you will get the reward.
right.
If you
Which I
still can't kill the last boss, you still won't get the rewards, which only solves part of the problem that we had early in the expansion, where like you would get to the 6th floor, realize you literally were not able to kill the boss no matter what you did, and you just get nothing.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, still, it doesn't fully solve that problem. I just don't think Torghast will ever be a difficult activity. Like, I
Yeah,
think it'll always be, if you're in Mythic Gear, it's going to be trivial. Similar like how, like, if you're in Mythic Gear, doing a level 15 Keystone is somewhat trivial at this point, right?
right.
Like, so I think in that regard, like the way that we look at it, I think is much different than if it's someone like gearing up, where doing a 12, getting the maximum rewards for the week is going to be difficult, right? But when they get maximum rewards and get that legendary, maybe that increases their power enough where
Yeah, I don't know
I
that
don't
that's
know.
actually going to be the case because, like I said, right now, layer 8 recommends eye level like 195, which is not even normal raid eye level, right? That's
Right, but you
like
have to don't but I thought you had to do 12s to get the full amount of soul senders
you do.
for the
It
week. So
requires
like
eye level 230, which is not even normal. It recommends eye level 230, not even
yeah, the new raid.
yeah,
Yeah.
or like
Yeah,
just
which
slightly above it. So it's like it's
oh
not
sorry.
like that level of gear is out of reach for people to be able to just completely trivialize it. I know I started at like eye level 190 on my warrior, just like running to
Right.
the end of the instance, basically.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Torghast is ever supposed to be a difficult activity like that. Like if it's just a complete the
Yeah,
check mark type activity, and twisting corridors is the if you want difficulty with your Torghast, you go do this. But I don't. It's just yeah, you're right. Like I'm having like I'm trying to rationalize why Blizzard did it the way they did,
Yeah.
right? In terms of like why it's trivial, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
weird.
I mean, I
Yeah.
understand. So Ian actually said in the interview that the reason it got made trivial in 9.0 is because they recognized that they just had to, like, they had to tone it down so they get the Soul Ash because people expected to be able to get the max Soul Ash every week.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know. There's other ways they could do it, right? They could make it so that you can only get. They could do the Valor thing where you only get so much Soul Ash every week, but you could get it from doing 3 8s, or you could do it from 112. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, yeah. Make the rewards based on the level you do, the layer you do.
I don't know what a great solution is. This is just another piece like leveling where they've stripped all the difficulty out of it, really. So it's just kind of tedious.
That's fair. Well, hopefully the talent trees and the torments and they explore like blessings and that sort of stuff a little bit, maybe in 9.
I will say one major disappointment I'll have, and then we'll move on to the Q&A or the lore corner in the Q&A, is that there are no new class powers right now. So
yeah, I mean, I would say that with the amount of rework they did on a scoring system for it and adding all that, I think that's probably where most of their Torghast dev time ended up. Right, was in reworking the scoring system and the rewards, like how the rewards were given out. Probably most of their time was spent there versus actually developing new, powers.
Yeah.
Which does suck. I mean, it's always cool to get new stuff. There's this like weird thing that we sort of talk about it a lot, which is like Blizzard creates all these expansion specific systems and then throws them the way at the end, right? So like, for me, Torghast doesn't seem like a system that's going to last beyond Shadowlands. So it's like, cool, we get a scoring system, but like, do I want them to put more time into fleshing out Torghast anima powers so that the 4 weeks that I run at the beginning of an of a patch to get the legendary I want are cooler, or would I rather them spend that time on something maybe like fixing Mistweaver? You know what I mean? Like, I know that's not the same team, but like the idea would be
I definitely I understand that. I do think they could do a little bit better. Like, at this point, I actually don't know if they actually have time because of the already massive delays on 9.1. And I wouldn't want them to delay the patch for 2 weeks to put extra Torghast powers in. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But if they started the hot fixing, like, hey, this week there's a new monk power. This week there's a new warlock power and a couple new warrior powers.
Yeah.
That could be cool.
It'd be cool if they added it like over the course of it. Would be interesting. Yeah. If they didn't get to it and they sort of drops. So.
That's the kind of thing where if they break the Torghast meta, if they break the Torghast meta and suddenly warriors are super OP in Torghast, you know who's going to care? No one.
Yeah. Warriors. Or people on the forums that get upset that their class wasn't the broken one this week. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Torghast of all places.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Cool. That's Torghast. Basically the TLDR is it's more of the same. This time without the bullshit 8% of your HP every 10 seconds power or torment. Because that thing on the class that cannot heal themselves is really dumb.
I can imagine. Awesome. Well, I think that wraps up sort of our patch in review this week and all that type of stuff. So I think we actually get to do lore corner tonight, which I'm excited about. So lore corner, for folks who are unfamiliar with it, it's sort of this new thing that I'm trying out. That's basically like, hey, Anomoly, you've been playing this game for 15, 16 years now, and you literally know nothing about the story. Maybe it'd be cool if you cared. So I'm going to start to try and care a little bit about the story and basically go through cool things that I have found, particularly in this case, it's going to be with 9.1 stuff that's coming out, cool story stuff. And to be fair, I think I'm only interested in this is because it's a lot of the old War 3 characters that I remember
Yeah.
that are just coming back. So maybe I won't care next expansion, but at least for now, it's some cool stuff coming in. So I said one. I know I think I have two in the notes. I think I'm just gonna do the first one on this one, and maybe we'll save the second one for later. But the first one is basically a continuation of Uther's story. Oh, sorry, and caveat here. Oh gosh, we're about to spoil things. So if you don't want to listen, give us like 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll do questions or like skip ahead. You'll know when we're talking about questions at this point. But yeah, there'll be some spoilers here. So in any event, the one I want to talk about today was actually the continuation of Uther's story in 9.1. So basically, there's a part of your Chains of Domination questline or campaign questline. You sort of help Uther at a certain point. So when we last left Uther, right, we had he was a Forsworn, which was sort of the dark Kyrian bros, right? And they'd been like, we escorted him out. He sort of had understood like his soul still hurt, like his chest still hurt from his soul or whatever. Um, so we revisit him in 9.1. Basically, he's been tasked with trying to find out, along with one of his Kyrian bros, trying to find out more about the Mournblade that attacked the head of the Kyrian people. I'm so bad at this. This is like a lore thing. I'm supposed to know this. I'm so bad. In any event, trying to figure out how these Mournblades work. So we travel with him through like this special area of Torghast actually, and end up in essentially a room with all the most sacred souls that have been collected by the jailer, right? Or not sacred souls, but the most important souls. There's like a bunch of them. There's like they all have different like code names you could say, like the betrayed father or the blood queen or the grand magister or whatever. And we eventually, in the same room is also Uther's soul. So we pick up Uther's soul, and we realize that essentially we realize at this point that if your soul is subjected to being ripped out of your body by a Mournblade, you're like your memories get twisted. So then we get to revisit
Oh.
three very key memories in Uther's life, which is so cool. Like so now we're getting to relive like War 3 stuff. Um so we basically start out with his first memory, which is when the Order of the Silver Hand was created, which essentially is the original order of paladins. Uther is named the first paladin as of this order, right? And we start there as like Uther's being indoctrined into this, and it sort of morphs, I guess, as you're doing it into the culling of Stratholme.
Oh.
So like you go from like, hey, we're gonna like indoctrinate you a paladin to like a burning build, like a burning
Yeah, Burning
like
City.
city or whatever. And like Arthas is of course there, and sort of there's a conversation or dialogue between Uther and Arthas, even though Uther was not at the original burning or calling of Stratholme. So that was a pretty cool memory to see. The next one wasn't as cool. It was or it was kind of interesting, the more dialogue based one where it's the day that Arthas actually becomes a paladin. And there's a lot of like some inner monologue here around like, did Uther set up Arthas to fail, like to eventually become the Lich King because he was so hell bent on like making him a paladin, right?
Right.
Thinking he could be like the next great one, I guess you could say. So that sort of thing. And then the final one is essentially when Arthas kills Uther,
Yeah.
uh, outside of Anderhall. And in that memory, the biggest thing that memory is, I guess that you learn about that memory is Uther holds on to that one because of the way he interacted with Arthas and sort of set him off essentially, right? Like he was pissed at Arthas at the time, didn't listen to his side, didn't understand his side, and sort of eventually Uther was very angry, I guess, when he came into it, started the fight, Arthas kills him. Yada yada yada. Um so that's sort of the story, and from there what sort of happens is because he's with this sort of other Forsworn Kyrian bro coming with him. Almost it honestly felt like when I was sort of reading through this and watching it, because there was a video of it, was it was almost like the night before Christmas or like the Christmas Carol movie, right? Where we go like to the past and the future and
Right.
then the present or whatever with the McScrooge or whatever Scrooge. I always want to say it's Scrooge McDuck, but it's like Ebenezer Scrooge, sorry. But yeah, so it sort of felt like that. But basically at the end of this, it comes out that like Arthas basically realizes that like, or sorry, Uther realizes that the way he interacted with Arthas wasn't good, right? He should come in it with like a different mindset, shouldn't have been angry about what happened. because this was post the culling of Stratholme, of course. Um, so this idea translates into the way the Kyrian view the Forsworn, which is cool. Where it talks about like the Kyrian then should basically not look at the Forsworn as enemies, but sort of understand where they're coming from, sort of why they are who they are, why they are the way they are. And at the end of it, essentially like the leader of the Forsworn becomes another Kyrian, like what is he? He like owns one of the citadels because they have all the different like loyalty and
Yeah.
purity or whatever they're called, right? So he becomes the dude, not of what is it? The paragon of devotion. I'm sorry. Um, so that's sort of interesting. So like the
Yeah.
Forsworn are now becoming a part of the Kyrian,
I don't know.
but
I'm a huge fan of them being like, oh, Uther should have just like looked past the whole calling of Stratholme thing and understood where Arthas was coming from. That seems a little bit sketchy to me.
but I think if you look at why Arthas did what he was doing, it was to essentially save his people. It was sort of the idea that like in certain situations it is better to lose a portion versus everything, right? So like
Right. These
with
days we
human
call that a quarantine.
yeah, well, kind of, yes. Quarantine or just
Like
a
you
like
quarantine them and you do what you can, and if they die, it's the disease, not
but I
the
think so there's
whole.
slight difference with like our quarantine here in the real world is that like we're not turning into zombies when we die and trying to
Yeah.
kill our friends. So, you
It's
know,
I don't know. I don't think that I don't like that, but the rest of it sounds neat.
yeah, I think that point was more of just trying to impart that like don't I guess like to impart that like don't assume to understand what a person is thinking or why they're doing something
Right.
based on your position. Like actually sit down and talk to them about it,
Yeah.
which I think was the
That is
point of
valid.
yeah, the point of it. But yeah, so that's it. Now part of the Kyrian, right? The final thing is really cool where um they mention there's a final conversation between Uther and I think it's Pelagos, um, where they sort of talk about maybe Arthas can be redeemed, which lore prediction and Nam here. So I'm off this whole Sylvanas redemption train. I'm off of it. It's old news. We're not seeing it. All right. Sylvanas is dead after this. All right. She's done.
Wait. Sylvanas was killed by a Mournblade too, right? Is her
Uh,
soul in there?
so actually, so to be fair, in this little room, there are souls there, and I can read them off if you want. But there none of them are Sylvanas. So
Okay.
there's a couple of named like the way you see like the little soul crystals that you
Yeah.
like follows you around when you pick up souls. There's a bunch of different named ones, and then there's one called the Many Forgotten Victims, which Many Forgotten Victims is purported to be the one that holds all the souls from Arthas's Frostmourne, basically from Frostmourne. And then there's named souls outside of that, which are like the Blood Queen, which is Lanethel, of course, from Naxxramas, the Guardian Naxxramas, Saffron, the Betrayed Father, which is Tyrannus Menethil, Arthas's dad. So like there's some specific key souls that they name in this
Yeah.
little room. But then of course, yeah, Sylvanas might be in sort of Arthas's little one. But no, so I'm telling you that so now we're talking about Uther redeeming Arthas. Arthas, we're us bringing Arthas back from the dead to basically re-wear the crown of domination, which has been shattered, but whatever the new one's called. But he'll be good. He'll be like the good. He'll be like Bolvar-ish.
We already have Bolvar. We
Yeah,
don't
no,
need
but
Bolvar, but with genocide.
no, but so Bolvar is going to be the leader of our expedition to the next expansion, whatever that is, against the Legion, probably. That's dude. I'm telling you, Arthas is coming back. Actually, to be fair, I think they do this just in case in like 12 years when
They
they're like,
want to bring
shit,
Arthas back. They want to do an elevator.
we need a fan service expansion,
Yeah.
Shadowlands 2.0. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But no, it was cool to read through this. Yeah, like a lot of the old War 3 stuff. I think honestly, it's the only reason I care is because it's a bunch of old War 3 lore stuff. But the fact that the Forsworn are now a part of the like they're sort of friendly again, which is cool. Um, and then the whole Arthas potentially being redeemed thing. Everybody loves redemption arc, Emallson. Everyone loves it. So I think we're getting it. God, 9.3 Arthas. So okay, here we go. 9.3, we find Arthas's soul, and we
Mm-hmm.
have to basically bargain with it, like resave it turn him to a good person so that he can basically rip the control the jailer has over Anduin so Anduin can continue to be the one true king. Or
I
Golden
hate
King,
it.
whatever his name is. I
I hate
love it,
it.
dude. I love it. Sylvanas isn't now helping. It's Arthas. Sylvanas is she's dead to me. I don't care about her
Um,
character anymore.
Unrelated. Well, actually, kind of related. We've already redeemed Kel'thuzad. It
Yep.
looks like we're gonna redeem Garrosh.
Hell yeah, brother.
So we're like, I don't know, redeeming a third genocidal maniac this expansion. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, 4, because while I say Sylvanas is dead, she's getting a redemption arc too. So that's 4.
All right, all
Good
right.
things come in 4s, right? Isn't that the saying? Good things come in 4s?
Pretty sure you're off by 1.
Yeah, 5s then? Who's the 5th?
Uh, you have
Oh,
you have
God.
one other lore thing in here that I'm curious about.
Oh, I did. So this is a quick one actually. So it's another part of the Chains of Domination storyline. There's some basically some quest text around the Winter Queen and who the sister of the Winter Queen is. So it's sort of said in passing, but as a part of this quest chain, you eventually sort of talk to the Stone Right, who we have found out is the Stone Right's the guy, the weaponsmith dude, right? The guy who makes our legendaries.
Mhm.
So we know that, but we is he? No.
The
Yes.
the hang on.
Not the Stone Right. It's the other guy. In any event, I won't confuse you. So I didn't go too much into this. I just thought it was interesting that at the end of it, basically at the end of sort of the quest chain, we end up with trying to basically save Tyrande from being crazy, like Night Warrior person. And the Winter Queen shows up at the end of this, like after we sort of saved Tyrande with a tear of a loon.
Hmm.
And she mentions it in the context of like so she's handing it to Tyrande and she goes, "My sister, after all, she did not abandon me." Um, she's like a 10 me player name, like so 10 me, whoever you are. She goes, "Take my sister's tear and come to the heart of the forest."
And the sister's tear is the
Insinuate
tear of a loon.
it's a tear of a loon. So insinuating that a loon and the Winter Queen are sisters. Which is interesting. So to be fair, I know very little about a loon and the whole
Yeah. I'm
that
gonna
one's
go out there now. I'm gonna make a prediction. 9.2 is going to be like night elf slash loon slash night warrior theme.
that'd be cool. I'd be down with that.
And the implication here is that like it's foreshadowing that that is actually part of the Shadowlands, and that's gonna be the new zone in 9.2.
Oh, okay.
Is like this other part of the Shadowlands, because we know from existing lore that the 4 zones plus the mod that we have access to is only a small fraction of
Yeah, the
places
different
in the
like
Shadowlands.
interesting. Interesting. That's a good. It's fair. I can get down with that. I can get down with that. So, but yeah, that was the only other thing was just that a loon and the Winter Queen are sisters. Um,
Yeah.
I had not gone through exactly how we end up in that, but I know that saving Tyrande is a part of that
Yeah.
sort of chain. 'Cause we finally find her and she's just going crazy. So, um, but yeah, that is lore corner. Uther stuff seems really cool. Super excited to see where that they take that, particularly with Arthas coming back. And yeah, maybe I mean Night Elf lore. I know very little about like the whole Elune like priestess of the moon type thing.
Yeah. I only know
So
surface level stuff.
yeah, I mean I know enough to be dangerous. Like I know the Malfurion, Illidan,
Yeah.
Tyrande love triangle thing.
Right.
Um, but I mean yeah, beyond that, maybe we'll learn a little bit. So cool. So that does it for lore corner. As always, we'll do better. I'll do better. But we'll get more lore stuff going on. So cool. So now I
Now
think
on to your
onto the
second favorite section.
set. Now it's my second favorite because no longer my favorite, but on to Q&A. So questions and answers time with Emallson and Nam. You guys can send in your questions. We will answer them. We have no limits. Put that in quotation marks or asterisk that. So today, you can send them on, however you want to get in touch with us. Get in touch with us. We'll answer questions here on live or jump in Twitch chat. If you catch us live when we stream on Saturdays, we'll answer them there. So really we have the big one. It was just one big one question today. It comes from our good friend Hursty. And they ask like a sort of a series of questions. We'll just sort of build on each other. So we'll just go through them here. So the first one is, do you prefer to use real names or pseudonyms when talking with guildmates or people you met through online games in general?
Pseudonym. What we use
Uh,
almost exclusively.
it will
My guild.
for me, it depends. So with my guild, it's almost always pseudonyms, just because I have not known them as long. But with people who I started playing WoW with, or started just playing online games with in general, I use first names actually a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a couple people that I use first names with. I've just like I've known them for decades at this point,
yeah,
and like I think once you start crossing between games, and especially games that don't let you really have like a name, like with the username that you use for everything, it
yeah,
starts like using a name starts breaking down, or a pseudonym starts breaking down.
yeah,
But yeah, within WoW right now, like people know my name because it's on my Twitter,
yeah,
but they 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 go by my character,
yeah,
not
yeah.
even
Very
emallson,
rare.
just my
Yeah,
character name.
yeah, yeah. Because like Anam is still the way that most people refer to me as. At least when folks I play WoW with, and then yeah, um, the folks that I like when I say like, hey, me and my friends are doing this. Whenever I tell a story like that, um, generally online friends, I'll use their first name. So, but I've also known those guys for like 12, 13 years. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um. Uh. So, and then the follow up to that one, if you are used to using their pseudonym, did it happen already that you call someone IRL by their pseudonym and got into weird situations because of this?
I haven't gotten in a weird situation because of it, but I've
Yeah, I mean, when we used to go to, like conventions and stuff like that, or like go to like big like events, it's generally been pseudonyms, but it's also been like gaming centric events, so it's not
right.
been like
Nobody
as
like.
weird to like yeah to call somebody like yeah like
But again,
Anomoly, what are
like
you doing?
none of our pseudonyms are really I like. There's no XX Gamer God 420 XX kind of pseudonyms going on here.
Yeah,
Um,
no,
you know, nobody would really blink if I like, we're in a grocery store. I said, "Oh, hi, Valium." Like,
yeah,
sure, it's kind of a weird name, but it's not like super far out there. It's not
yeah,
like obviously a pseudonym. Um, and that's most of it. I think probably the weirdest one is one of the players in our guild, Gucci.
Gucci.
Like that's probably the weirdest one. If I just like, oh hi Gucci, like in a grocery
Yeah,
store. That's
that's
like
funny.
that's my test of like how awkward is this if I'm in line at the grocery store and I see them, like how weird is it for me to say hi and
Yeah,
say their pseudonym? And Gucci I think is probably the most weird of the people in our guild right now.
gotcha. I'm trying to think. Um, we have like yeah, we have a couple folk like Donkey. It's a little weird. Uh, There's Doctor. It's Dregus, but it looks like Doctor Aegis when you type it. So that would be might be a little bit weird. But no, I mean yeah, I don't think I'd be in a weird situation because I think for me, if I was ever meeting a bunch of people like that I played games with, it would be at a gaming
At a
convention or like a
convention.
gaming event anyway. So it's like it would be weird if we were eating dinner or like getting food and like calling each other our names, but then it's like the people at that place we're going to are probably close to the event anyway. So it's like
They've
they're
been
probably
dealing
getting a
with that
bunch of
shit all day.
people already. Yeah. So yeah, no, nothing weird for me. Although actually, so the one weird situation I did have was when I was I had just it was one of the first meetups we ever did with pals with the original guy. I was in P4L and it was in Boston. I remember having to tell my mom I was driving to Boston to meet up with people I played games with. She was like, "Oh," she was like, "Okay." She was like, "What? Like who?" So like, I know who you're with. Can you tell me who's going to be there? And I was like, there's gonna Smooches is going to be there. Because his name was WTB Smooches, like willing to buy smooches in game. I was like, "This is a gentleman by the name of Amorta." Which is sounds kind of okay. Familiar will be there. Uh, so that was kind of awkward. I mean, at the time I was in college, so I was like probably 19 or 20. Or no, so we went out drinking, so I was over 21. So it was like 21 or 22 probably when I did it. So I was like old
That's so
enough where
funny
like,
though.
yeah, like my mom would be like, "Please, just don't get yourself killed. Like, just don't end up in a gutter somewhere." But yeah, yeah, that was probably the only awkward conversation they've ever had about people I met. And then the funny thing is, my mom has met most of the people I just mentioned, like eventually through the years. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess this is a nice follow-up. Did you participate or organize a guild meeting IRL?
Have not. Occasional Excellence had one a couple years ago, but I was very new to the guild at the time and
Mhm.
didn't participate because of that. And
Gotcha.
then there was talk of having another one last year, but obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have another one in a year or two. Who knows? Um,
Gotcha.
but a lot of the old OE as a guild had a bunch of people that had played together for a decade, like since Wrath of the Lich King,
Yeah.
and a lot of those people are no longer playing the game at all. Like, uh,
Gotcha.
I think Eternal Palace was like the big exodus where a bunch of people that had been playing was like, you know what, this is a good time to call it quits.
Yeah.
And that was the so now basically everybody in the guild. There's probably like 10 people that have been in the guild since well before that, and everybody else has been in the guild since at most.
Gotcha.
So it's like,
A mix, yeah.
yeah, maybe I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit too recent to really do a guild meetup, but
Yeah.
maybe I'm just I don't know too picky about that because I'm not a huge person.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the other like the Boston one was the big one, and then we've done guild meetups for like over the years for people's I say guild like loosely at this point because like most of the
Going to
people
someone's wedding or something doesn't count.
yeah, like we've been to like yeah, I've been to people's weddings that I played games with, and there've been other
Yeah,
people who are part of the guild that were also at the wedding. But yeah, I mean, it was the Boston one. I think was really the only like go to a place and do a guild thing. Every other event I've had or stuff I've done with like people has been more just people that I've played games with that like that came from pals mostly, right?
right.
But they had quit WoW at the time, so it's hard to call it a guild meetup. It's just like the like we went to TI5 like the International 5 in Seattle, like a group of us,
Yeah.
which was fun.
I
So
will say it is very entertaining to me that Pals for Life seems to have actually been Pals for Life.
yeah, it's yeah, it's funny that those guys. Yeah, I still like of the people that I really started to play with. There are still actually check Discord. Uh, there's 12 people that had played WoW with us over the course, at least classic, right, vanilla, that I still talk to on literally a daily basis,
Yeah,
which is
nice,
crazy.
nice.
So yeah, so they're really cool. And the final question, which is funny, did you try to keep IRL friends apart from friends you met online, or is this a more fluid transition in your personal environment? Um,
It's something that I have not consciously tried to do. It's a lot of my IRL like there's the friends that I play games with, and then there's my other friends, and my other friends
yeah,
just don't meet the friends I play games with generally, like because they don't play games.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that's really more how it breaks down for me. There's like one thing that where I've got a friend that I've had for years, and we started playing Overwatch. Like he moved to California, I moved to Florida. We would barely talked for a while, and
yeah,
now we're catching up. And so that's something that I've intentionally been like not like. There's people in my guild that also play a bunch of Overwatch, and I've been keeping that separate for now. But it's not really because I want to like not have them meet. It's more because I want to have when I'm hanging out with my old friend, I want to actually be hanging out with him, not hanging out with guildies, and he's also there.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. And for yeah, that makes. I mean, that makes sense. Like for me, it's pretty much like I have friends that play games, and I have friends that don't play games, and like the friends that don't play games know I play games. It's not like I keep that part of it a secret.
right.
It's just like they don't play games, so it's like there's never a situation where like, hey, you want to jump on and play some Rocket League, and they're like, no, no,
Yeah.
like
I
no.
mean, it's exactly like I did jujitsu in Florida. It's possible. Uh,
Yeah,
but COVID. And I like there were my friends who did jujitsu, and there were my friends that didn't do jujitsu, and because it was all like in the same city, like sometimes we ran into it, like sometimes they did actually meet.
Yeah.
But by and large, they were separate just because they didn't have opportunity to meet, and I'm not going around throwing parties.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say that like I've had like people I played games with meet my IRL friends like when they would like if we did like a small meetup, like I know that a couple times like two or three guys came and hung out like over like a long weekend
Yeah,
at like my apartment or something, and like we'd go out to dinner and like my other friends would be there, so like we'd go out to dinner together and hang out, and like that would be fine.
yeah,
Um but I never really consciously kept them separate. I will say that the one thing I consciously do is I keep like where I work, no one knows I play video games where I work. I keep my work like there are certain like aspects of my life that I will not let video games get into. And work is one of them. So like most of the time when people are like, "Hey, what'd you do this weekend?" I'm like, "Yard work," or now I have the excuse I played with my children. Like before it was like, oh, I just laid around and slept. It was great. Didn't do anything. So that's the one thing that I have done. And I think that stems from like I still have a huge like not I wouldn't say embarrassment about the game stuff, but to me, there's still like I grew up in a time when games had such a bad stigma about them, like
right.
as a kid, that like I still hold on to that,
Yeah,
right?
it's that's not a thing for me, but I also work in tech, and so
Yeah,
it's very, very, very common for people to play games. Like it's honestly more common than like probably more people than not play video games.
yeah.
So
I live in corporate suit world, so
yeah,
like very different. Like my day is spent figuring out how to like up margins. How can we cut as many costs as possible and charge more for this? So yeah, I'm one of those type of people. So yeah, so my world is very much separate
hey,
in
at
those
least you don't have
areas.
to deal with medical billing.
That is true. I do not. No, I do not. Mine's retail.
Um,
So, but yeah,
yeah,
I think that's the only thing that I've kept separate. I think most of the time it's been like if people are around, they hang out, but my friends have different issues. Just like I don't know all my friends, right? So it's sort of that
yep,
type of thing.
yep,
So
same here. But I think that
it's a
is going to
long
bring
one.
us to the end of our
Interesting.
show today. And this has been a long one. We are approaching 2 hours and 40 minutes. I
Jesus.
know there's a little bit of Twitch hiccup in that time. It won't affect the audio version of this, but if you're watching this on YouTube, there might be some dropped frames and choppy audio, and there's unfortunately nothing I can do about that. Uh, if it's become a problem, then I will make sure that there is an audio version link readily available for you to switch. Sorry.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, that's the end of our show today. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoyed this show and you want to support it and the other work that we do over on the Peak of Serenity, you can do that over on our Patreon at patreon.com/Peak of Serenity. And of course, if you don't want to or are unable to contribute financially to Peak of Serenity, you can always come and hang out in one of the lounge channels. Come help answer questions in one of the questions channels. There are lots of ways to be involved and participate in the community,
Oh
whether or
yeah.
not you are a patron. Uh, and I will say again, Brew Lounge is the best lounge.
Ugh.
But that is it for our show today. And we will be back next week, same time, same place. See you then.
I